Kingdom of Ulas, City of Seek. Marketplace with few people, some of them just sitting on the ground. A young guy with a knapsack on his back enters the tavern. He asks the owner to sell him wheat wine, but he looked down sadly. One of the guests says it's useless. No matter how much you call, there will be no reaction. And the wine is on the counter, just let him put the money on the table. It's self-service here. The traveler does not understand what happened. According to the guest, last month the inhabitants of Tartaru tried to kidnap the tavern owner's newborn son, but they accidentally killed him while trying to escape. The traveler wondered, "Are these the people who steal babies for experiments?" The guest answered, "Yes. The Holy See has no time to deal with public safety, and these individuals have begun to become impudent. In the traveler's opinion, they should now be careful when going out into the street." The guest glanced at the girl at another table. If that witch had not attacked the holy throne, they would not have fallen to this. The girl spilled something on herself. All the guy's attention is on her. Is everything okay with her? The guest of the establishment asks. Her answer, "Everything is okay." And she admitted, she was born like this. Her name is Nilsi Glary. She was also nicknamed the Witch. She got into a third-rate novel about reincarnation and revenge. Here, the girl became the main character, the witch Nilsi Glary. As in all such books, the unfortunate woman had a tragic life. The Holy See tricked the most powerful witch into studying the magic of immortality. Then it deprived her of all her loved ones and declared a hunt for her. At the last moment, the sorceress activated the magic circle. A witch created it while studying immortality magic. Then she accidentally went back 20 years. A few days later, a lady with fiery red hair destroyed the new research institute of the Holy See all by herself. Their plans for eternal life never came to fruition. People called the girl the Scarlet Witch. Now it's the witch's turn to speak. Her life is not as difficult as you might imagine. She has to disguise herself, but she is often found anyway. But the witch easily earns money. And as for the disadvantages, this body brings a lot of problems, whether it is natural disasters or catastrophes, or the death of a neighbor's dog during childbirth. This fills the witch with a feeling of despondency. Even if she tries her best to make herself happy, it's all useless. Even when it seems like the weather is fine outside, but it's actually cloudy. If the witch doesn't find something to do, she'll die of depression before she can enjoy her second life. But she doesn't have to look for anything. She's the main character. That means the problems will find her. The blonde boy guy at the tavern didn't have time to finish his drink in the mug. He suddenly flew off and hit the wall of the establishment. And then he looked ahead sullenly and angrily. A huge man entered the tavern, pulling a boy by the chains. He is going to teach the wayward recruits a lesson. The traveler is shocked by the actions of this brute. The guest asks him to keep a low profile if he values his life. According to the guest, this is an officer from Tartaru. He is responsible for training suicide soldiers to increase the throne's army. Every year, countless people die at his hands. And the traveler also wants to join the army? So, that kid who hit the wall is a runaway? It's not nice to say so, but that's his fate. The bully is pleased. No one will come to save the boy. The training has just begun. How dare he run away without asking? According to the officer, if the fugitive had used his head, his comrades would not have suffered. And he threw the child on a chain to the side. The witch watched what was happening. The villains were here again. And the thug would not stop even if the fugitive asked for mercy. The officer threatened to tear off the boy's legs first, and he stretched out his hand to him. The fugitive, who had unnoticed, grabbed the stones and threw them at the villain's face. He staggered. Then the boy threw him back with a piece of wood. The boy wanted to hit the thug in the eye with this wooden stake, but he grabbed his opponent by the hand and threw him aside. The unfortunate man fell. Having risen to his feet, the villain threatens to kill the child. But the witch stands in his way. The officer asks the woman to leave. He has no time for her. Nilsi knows he does not have magical power flowing through him, and his physical indicators are level C. Normal people have no chance of winning against the big guy. The witch looked at the boy. Did he analyze the situation before starting his actions? The bully demands to get out of the way. The girl understands. The boy would have counterattacked the enemy if not for his young age and weak body. There is a man with such a fighting talent in this novel. The officer is angry. She didn't hear him? Let her get lost. The villain touched Nilsi, but suddenly he lost part of his hand, and he screamed in wild pain. The thug didn't understand what was going on. At that moment, when he touched the girl, his limb was torn off, and he didn't even see what weapon the opponent used. How is that possible? Who is she? Could she really be a witch? The big guy realized. She smiled. Even if the big guy guessed, there would be no reward. And if he wanted to know who she was, he could ask Satan. The witch summoned a fiery tornado that struck the villain. The tavern patrons are horrified. This woman killed the officer of Tartarus with one blow, and her hair turned red after the spell. A witch! The people ran away in terror. If it had happened earlier, Nilsi would have simply burst into tears. Surprisingly, at the moment of killing the thug, all the sadness that had haunted her for so long suddenly disappeared. Instead, the lady felt as if she was swallowed by emptiness. The owner of the tavern approached the girl. He was carrying a boy on a chain in his arms. The man asks to save the child with whom something is clearly wrong. Nilsi does not understand why he wants to save a stranger, but he reminds the owner of his son. He has already lost his child and does not want to see another one die. The man asks the witch for help. According to her, there is a difference in the types of power sources. The magic she uses is too dangerous. Even if the girl tries to heal the boy, it will ultimately cause irreparable harm. After all, this is the witch's curse. It's a pity, but Nilsi can't do anything. The tavern owner is very upset about this, and again that feeling visited the witch. It is called helpless despair. Suddenly, the same boy whom the officer wanted to kill came to them. He called forth a glow with his hand and healed his unfortunate comrade. The child with the chain around his neck opened his eyes. For the tavern owner, this is a miracle. Is this a holy night? Nilsi looks at the blonde. Does he have such a talent? But the only holy warrior born from Tartarus, Nilsi turned the boy's face to hers. She recognized him. It was Javier. August is the most powerful knight created by Tartarus for the Holy See in the last 100 years. He is also the observer of the Eternal Life Project. In his past life, he suppressed Nilsi's resistance and eventually killed the witch. If she hadn't used a spell before her death and turned back time, the story would have ended with the victory of the saints. The best way to prevent this tragedy from happening again is to nip the threat in the bud. And Nilsi grabbed the boy by the throat. She remembered how in her past life she lay dead in the snow, and the night closed her eyes. Nilsi took her hands off her throat and stroked the guy's hair. Maybe she was just too devastated at that moment, or something trembled in her heart. But she couldn't do it, and she offered him to go with her. Many years later, the now grown-up blonde hugged Nilsi and told her how he killed the robbers. And did that make her happier? After all, the witch had promised him a reward. Long before that, the lady had not known that he would become her biggest mistake in life. The hotel door opened and a brunette girl with a fair-haired boy walked into the lobby. The receptionist was embarrassed to see them. She asked, "Did they want to spend the night?" "Yes, the guests need a double room and food for the baby. The lady asks to prepare it for the boy." The hotel employee remarked on the cuteness of the baby. "Should the guest take this?" Her answer, no. The question, should he be considered a pet? Guards with swords and torches walked the streets, putting up posters about the search for the black-haired girl. And a brunette guest watched from the hotel window. It seemed they would not stay in this city for long. The boy was eating spaghetti with his hands. The lady wondered, hadn't they taught him how to use cutlery? She stroked his hair again. A little magic and a fork appeared for the child. He twisted the noodles and continued eating. Can't he really speak? In the novel, Tartarus planted devilish insects in his children to control them. These parasites would devour the 5 senses of the body and eventually make them selfless without a personal eye. They will become tireless warriors, thinking of nothing but fighting. The best weapon. The witch must get rid of it before it is too late. But if she trains the boy well, he will be able to speak again. Nilsi grabbed her head. No, she couldn't do that. It was impossible to kill the devil beetle without letting her own magic enter the child's body. What if the witch accidentally killed him? A glow appeared in her hands. The girl waved her hand and the glow went like an arrow across the room. The witch has no other choice. But how she does not want to do this. He asks Mummin to appear. He has enough of pretending to be dead. A spirit named Mummin appeared. He asked, "Is everything all right with Lady Nilsi?" The boy was horrified by what he saw. He almost screamed in fear. The boy suddenly started crawling on the floor and growling. His reaction was exactly the same as the girl's on the first day they met. Mummin is Nilsi's wand companion. He uses its powerful magic to possess consciousness. Together, they had overcome many hardships in their past lives. It could be said that he was Nilsi's only reliable companion. But it was quite another thing to see it with your own eyes. This companion always radiated a dark aura. The girl couldn't explain why, but she instinctively rejected it. And then she unsealed him in the rift of time and space and threw him there, just so he would get lost. If it weren't for this boy, Nilsi would never have met Mummin. After all, he's the only character who followed the witch to travel through time. He knows everything in this story that she doesn't. Mummin wanted to know what he could do for Nilsi, and she didn't know if she could trust him. Then the spirit gave a master class in cooking. He asked the boy to wash and clean the magic lizard, then cut it into strips the size of a thumb and put it aside. When the oil is hot, cut the salmon fruits and fry them until they become fragrant. Fry on high heat until golden brown. Place the remaining lizard meat in a saucepan. Add a little salt, sugar, black pepper. Cook and stir until the mixture changes color. Then add the moonshadow grass, 7 horns, and fresh branches. All this must be cooked on low heat for 7 hours. A pot of delicious antidote for magical insects is ready. The witch and the boy are surprised. They do not need a dish for dinner, but a remedy for poison. According to Mummin, this is a real antidote. The boy began to eat it straight from the pot. The spirit did not have time to finish, but suddenly the boy's face changed. He fell to the floor and dropped the container. Mummin finished. The boy screamed in horror. The suffering of being rid of demonic insects was unbearable for many children. The spirit thought Nilsi knew about it. The witch felt as if she was sitting on a chair surrounded by 3 people with hoods on their heads, and hundreds of ropes were wrapped around her. The boy was screaming. Nilsi hugged him. She reassured him. Everything was fine. She would share his pain. And the girl's face had the same red spots as the boy's. She hugged him and asked him not to be afraid. They were sleeping together in the same bed at night. The boy opened his eye and looked at the girl. Red spots were still visible on her face. He raised himself up and clenched his fists. He touched the lady. He felt that she had calmed down. They seemed to be transported to a beautiful lawn with mountains in the background. In the afternoon, Nilsi and Javier walked through the city past the shops. The seller advertised his new type of wheat wine. It is expensive for the buyer. Last week it was cheaper. The boy walked and mimicked the people talking. After driving out the devilish insects, it took him only half a day to master so many words. The speed with which he learns the language is growing by leaps and bounds, but there are problems with pronunciation. Suddenly, a man passed between them. Javier got scared. Only when he says the girl's name, he can pronounce the letters very clearly, as if someone else was saying it. Javier took Nilsi by the hand and plaintively asked not to leave. She suggested not to call her by her name directly, but just call her sister. Or you can also call her sister Nilsi. The guy was happy and did not notice how a certain girl looked at them. If Nilsi had to stay in this city, she would have to disguise the guy. She took a certain plant from the counter. Is there anything useful here? Get out of the way. A horse with a rider was racing towards. The horse went mad. Nilsi was already running towards the child, and this distance. But the boy was saved from death by the same woman who had been looking at them a couple of minutes ago. The frightened rider rushed towards her. Is she okay? The witch stood aside, not understanding who it was. Would someone risk their life to save a stranger? Javier stood up. The woman was worried. Was he hurt? Did she take his hands? Does it hurt? Where does it hurt? He is scared. Who is she? The girl smiled. What is he saying, the silly boy? She is his mother. Javier and Nilsi are shocked by the words of the stranger. House. A pot of food hangs over the fireplace. Nilsi and Javier are sitting at the table. In front of them is a man and the woman from the street. His name is Ford, and hers is Sinara. They are very sorry. The son of this family died a few months ago. Since then, Sinara has been mistaking all the children on their street for her child. According to the woman, the baby looks like Swift when he was a baby. For a moment, the poor thing thought. She couldn't hold back and burst into tears. Nilsi also began to cry. No need to talk about sad topics in front of her. She grabbed the boy and threw him to the poor couple. The witch soon stopped crying. The spell was over. She never cried when she was alone with Javier. And she almost forgot about this body and this problem. It is not recommended to stay here for long. We must find a reason to leave here as soon as possible. She says they are late. Does Javier like swords? Ford asked. There are many of them in his workshop, and he suggested that the boy go and have a look. Nisley asks the man to stop, but Sinara grabbed her hand. She wonders, where are the couple's parents? Why were they walking alone? The witch's parents weren't mentioned in the novel, but no matter, Nilsi would think of something now. She explained, they came from an orphanage and never met their parents. Sinara. Really? How good? Nisley's face was puzzled. What? The mistress corrected herself. No, she meant that it was a great pity. They had lost their loved ones. If so, do they want to be their children? The witch was surprised by this, and not only Javier, but Nilsi too. Sinara has dreamed of having a beautiful daughter like her all her life, and she wants to do the girl's hair. Does she want to try? Nilsi should refuse her, but she can't say a word. Nilsi's age. What's the point of having a boy? He would grow up in no time. In pursuit of his career and his ideals, he left his family to pursue his dream. And in the end, it all ended tragically. Question from Nilsi? An accident? And immediately became embarrassed. She apologizes. She shouldn't have asked about it. Sinara reassured her. Everything is fine. It's not a secret. Their son served the Holy See to fight the witch, and then he sacrificed himself. After a while, the hosts were standing at the door. The guests had agreed to stay for dinner, so they were going to get groceries and would be back soon. Nilsi was waving at them with a smile. She hears Mummin's words. He believes that the witch is tormented by guilt for killing the couple's son. She suggests hitting the spirit if he does not understand human language. The spirit only wants to warn the lady. He asks her to be careful with this couple. Perhaps this invitation was a conspiracy from the beginning. Instead of sitting, folding his hands and waiting for death. Javier was asleep, but woke up. At the market, Sinara bought fish and 3 kilograms of good ribs. She looks at the meat. It seems stale to her. Why is the seller selling this? Ford is surprised. They bought so much. Will the children eat it all? The landlady reminded how long it had been since their house had been busy. And the people nearby were whispering, this is terrible and not far from them. Sinara approached them. What happened? According to a passerby, she arrived just in time. And she told him, the witch had returned. Just a few days ago, an officer had been killed and a child had been kidnapped in a neighboring town. After that, the witch had disappeared. Perhaps she had come to them. The other asked not to tell Sinara about this. Didn't he know about her family? But she asks to talk further. The woman needs a description of the child who was kidnapped by the witch. Soon they returned home. Nilsi noticed the return of the owners. She wonders where Mr. Ford is. The hostess replied, he went to the workshop and wants to take something. He promises to cook something to eat now, because the guests are clearly dying of hunger. Since Sinara knows nothing about the guy's taste preferences, she took a little bit of everything. Javier noticed all this. He snatched the weapon, holding the woman's hand. She can't move? Scarlet Witch, Sinara told the guest. Nilsi turned to the boy. She did not remember giving him permission to act. He explained this by the desire of the hosts to kill the girl. The brunette thought about it. Is it true? Javier thinks she needs his protection? Don't make him laugh. Nilsi grabbed the scissors and pointed them at the mistress of the house. She is a witch who does all sorts of evil. Nilsi had planned to wait until the woman finished cooking before doing anything. What a shame. A shot rang out and a bullet hit the girl in the palm of her hand. The shooter Ford asks his wife to run. Sinara broke free and ran. The man aims at Nilsi. Javier is worried, and she just smiled and played with the bullet. The owners are shocked. It's a witch. They ask the boy to come to them quickly because it's dangerous here. This witch deceived him. The husband and wife assure. Does the boy know how many people she killed? And if he stays with her, he will suffer too. Sinara asks him not to be afraid. The mother will protect the unfortunate child. The witch pushed the boy towards these people. He is surprised by her action. The girl goes to the exit and agrees with the woman. After all, then Javier will be better. Nilsi will not need a nanny, and they will adopt him. Everyone will be happy. But the boy broke free and caught up with Nilsi. He sincerely hugged the girl. She does not understand his actions. A child can grow up in a complete family, have parents who love him, and a bright future, to have a career that he enjoys, and to be with the people he loves. And this instead of chasing the witch from everywhere and being hated and exiled. He knows perfectly well what is right for him, but Javier didn't want any of it. He didn't care. Exile or hatred, they would always be together. Nilsi looked sadly at the child, and Ford calmed Sinara down because she couldn't fight the witch. The landlady points a gun at Nilsi. She threatens the witch that she will never again allow her to hurt innocent people, as she did to the son of the owners of the house. Innocent? The girl asked them to think about it. What was their son doing in the Holy See? Do these people really know nothing? Nilsi showed pictures of the past when Sinara came to the boy with parcels. And at that time, he was torturing prisoners. The mother simply denies the truth. The weapon fell to the floor in surprise. The woman does not believe it. It cannot be. The son is not like that. And the witch has clearly confused him with someone else. Sinara immediately perked up. Nilsi has killed so many people that she can't remember him. The guest denies. She remembers everyone who died at her hands. That boy wounded on the battlefield. Corpses and fire around, and Nilsi with a sword above him. The boy whispered, "Mom." After the witch burned his body and took all the sins upon herself, he left this world. Unhappy Serena sobbed in her husband's arms at these revelations. 6 years later, a village in a picturesque place. A boy was watching two girls who were dragging a doll at each other. Each wanted it for herself. Besides, this boy had made it. The boy asks to stop arguing. It is an ordinary rag doll. He can make another one for a girl in need. The one who did not want to give up the toy does not want him to make a similar one. The second disputant wanted the opposite. The boy turned away. If this continued, the two sisters would turn against each other and become enemies. He turned to his comrade. It was his fault, so let him think about how to fix it. Javier listened to him. Javier was drilling into some kind of device with a drill. A girl with pink hair standing nearby thanked the guy for his hard work and suggested taking a break. But he was almost done. All he had to do was insert the core into the device. Finally, everything worked. The customers were delighted. For the head of the family, the work done was amazing. How does it all work? The mother and daughter are also happy. Javier assured the family that the device was working properly. Next time, if something went wrong, they should contact him immediately. The man asked, "Is the master's sister okay?" Everything is the same with the sister. The head of the family called her a genius. If the magical device created by the girl is sold in the city, it will definitely be. But the wife interrupted her husband, not letting him finish. Javier is pleased to hear their praise. But if this goes into mass production, the sister's body will not withstand such a load. And they are satisfied with what they have now. The customer's daughter offered the guy lunch, but he refused. Javier needs to go back and cook dinner for his sister. The guy left, and the people watched him go. What a good guy, they thought. The man remembered that he had forgotten to give the repairman the money for the repair. When Javier was already walking through the city, a guy with barrels noticed him. He was about to call him when the daughter of all those customers pulled him aside. The father asked her to give him the money, but she wanted to follow him home. The girl wants to know where Javier lives. Is she a stalker? The guy is perplexed. The interlocutor asked the boy to think. The brother and sister have been living in their village for 6 years. But no one has ever seen the boy's sister. The guy decided to go with the girl so she wouldn't do anything stupid. And then they watched as Javier talked to other guys on the way home. I don't understand why he's so popular. Is he a succubus? The girl is sure that her friend is just jealous of Javier if he says so. So they followed the young repairman until they finally reached their destination. The guys saw a big house. That must be where the strangers live. The door was unlocked and they went inside. They started calling for Javier. It seemed he wasn't there. They heard a boy's voice. He was calling for Nilsi. Had she fallen asleep in the lab again? The girl answered, "She was too sleepy. Javier thinks she'll catch a cold. And the food will be ready soon, she just has to wait a little." The guy turned around and saw these two. But why are they here? According to the customer's daughter, they came to pay for the repairs. But Javier says that it was not necessary. The girl wonders, did he just talk to his sister? Can they meet her? The young man became embarrassed, but then Nilsi herself came out. The guys froze in surprise. The girl looked gorgeous in a dark blue dress. Do they have guests? She looked at the guests in surprise. They sat at the table. Nilsi offered the guests tea, and there was silence. She did not know what to do or what to talk about. When they arrived, they lived alone. And they lied, calling the witch weak and incapable of meeting people. Nilsi hasn't spoken to locals in years. Every day at home, she gets delicious food, and clothes. All the work of communicating with outsiders falls on Javier. The end result is that social skills are practically non-existent. Does the witch not know what young people like to talk about these days? And what if she is considered old-fashioned? Will Javier be mocked if she says something wrong? If only someone would help Nilsi. And the guests thought this girl was very beautiful. It is not surprising that with such an attractive sister, Javier indifferent to the proposals of village girls. Nilsi wondered if they had any important business with the owners of the house. The guy answered, no, they just wanted to give money for the repairs. And he wanted to go in and visit Javier's relatives. The girl did not expect that Javier and his sister would be so different. They are not alike at all. Her companion considers it rude. According to Nilsi, there is no blood connection between them. The boys are orphans who take care of each other. These words interested the guest. Nilsi became embarrassed. Did she say something wrong? Javier noticed it. And is everything okay with the daughter of his clients? She turned pale. She reassured him. Everything is fine. Let her not worry. The girl thinks the guy is worried about her. The hosts want to treat the guests to tea. What kind of snacks do they like? Cake or cookies? Nilsi can do it? But her brother is not sure about the witch's abilities. She's never cooked before. Nilsi smiles. What is the boy talking about? This is nonsense. Didn't she cook for him? Javier thinks it's right for him to do the cooking. He does all the housework. The boy asks his sister to be careful and not to hurt herself. After all, this time everything is different. Nilsi asks him not to worry. She will not let him down. Let her do it. Javier looks at the girl with fear. The lady asks her guests for permission to show them her skills. 3 hours later, she puts a cake on the table. It looks unsightly. The guy who came to visit grins. The appearance of the product is not very important. The girl agrees with him. The main thing is taste. They tried it and it was disgusting. According to the boy, the cake was burnt on the outside and not cooked enough on the inside. And too sweet, as if it consisted only of sugar. Of course, using a warp spell to cook strawberries was a bad idea. It makes them smell like earth. Nilsi smiles and wants to bring something cooked. Javier also rated the cake. He praised the cream. It was whipped well. But if you bake it for too long, it will smell burnt. And he really likes it. The guests looked at him and his sister with bewilderment. Javier and Nilsi looked at each other. Evening came. Javier said it was late and his sister had to go to bed. She thought he was right. And she suggested that the guests stay with them because it was already getting dark. The guests should not worry and feel at home. And if they don't mind, they can also call her sister. Javier froze at these words and the guys became embarrassed. The lady stood up and left. The boy and the girl said goodbye to her. While the young master of the house was not listening, the guest told a friend that Nilsi seemed cold at first glance, but surprisingly easy to get along with. And he noted the permission to call the girl sister. They smile, but Javier thinks that this is not right. After all, she is his sister. Then Javier led the guests to their bedroom. He wished them a good rest, and if they need anything, they should come to him. His room is at the end of the corridor. The boy wished good night and said goodbye until tomorrow. The doors closed and the boys were left alone. The girl asks the boy not to anger the owner of the house anymore in the future, but he wasn't going to. The girl plopped down on the top bunk of the bunk bed. It was her first time sleeping away from home, and it was so exciting. Her friend asked her not to fall out of bed. The girl suggested the boy to explore the local area at night. He doesn't like it. Is she crazy? But if they go now, they might find cannibal vines. The boy doesn't know what they are, but the boy doesn't know what it's about. The girl is surprised by her friend's ignorance. This story is passed down from generation to generation in the village. A long time ago, there lived a young man like her friend who was also called Rum. Rum is a diligent young man who often went to the mountains to catch wild animals in order to feed his family. One day while hunting, he accidentally found a rabbit tangled in a vine. It could not move. Rum considered himself lucky and went to catch the rabbit. But he did not expect the vine to attack him. It was as if it were alive. No matter how much the guy fought with it, it was all in vain. Poor Rum was simply engulfed in vines and gradually disappeared into the grass. The boy, wrapped in a blanket in the bedroom, asked for this horror to stop. The story continued. The family went to look for the hunter in the mountains, but they found no one there. A little later, the villagers discovered a huge grape bush on which, for some reason, beautiful flowers were blooming. That's how they found Rum, poor and exhausted. Only skin remained of him. The interlocutor was very scared by this story. The girl laughs at his timidity. But let him relax, she will not scare him anymore. She suggested talking about something else. She looked down. Her friend Rum was almost fainting. Then she remembered Javier and Nilsi. She clutched the bed linen. She thought that she was spending the night at her lover's for the first time. And she decided to take a walk around the city at night. She can't fall asleep, so she gets some fresh air. She stepped on something. It was a flower. She was surprised why they grow in such a place. And then the girl saw a ladder to the roof, entwined with some branches. The guest immediately remembered her own story about a hunter who was killed by a tree. Javier won't be able to save the girl either? Yes, the innate skills of the Holy Knights can only be used on human bodies. If you don't use magic, she will die in less than 3 days. But if you use it on her, she will perish immediately. She is a source of disaster for those around her. This is her curse. Mummin told all this Nilsi. The hoop on the witch's hand sparkled. She saw a guest who had climbed the stairs to her. She wondered who the mistress of the house was talking to. The witch's reflection appeared in the girl's eyes. Nilsi stands against the backdrop of the night sky. She asked the girl, "Why did she come out so late, Emily?" She was amazed by such a beautiful view. Is this really magic? She rushed to the lady in admiration. Then Nilsi told the guest about their home grapevine, Starlight. The plant's growth depends on magic. It has some spiritual knowledge and can communicate with people to a certain extent. And the lady ordered the vine to pour tea for the guest. The plant obeyed and handed Emily the cup. The girl was delighted. She was interested in the name of the vine. She tried to touch it, but the plant moved aside. Nilsi smiled. The vine is very shy. It will die in a few days, so the owner did not give it a name so as not to upset. The matter is in the lady's magic. She is special. When used on living beings, it will cause a strong rejection reaction in the body, which will eventually lead to death. Nilsi first came across a branch of a dying starlight vine and infused magic into it. Nilsi didn't expect the vine to grow. But it didn't save her for long. She would soon die. And if she continued to use the girl's magic, the plant would die even faster. But there was no choice. Emily asks to let other people fill him with magic power. So it is possible? Nilsi agrees. But if only there was a wizard who could do it. The girl asks to teach her magic. In the morning, Rum somehow got out of bed. He doesn't know how long he was unconscious. In the hall, he saw Javier and asked, "Why did he wake up so early?" But the guy heard swearing on the balcony. Girls' screams were coming from there. On the balcony, Nilsi denied something and explained it by the danger. Emily disagreed. Why? She has no talent, and she is not afraid of any danger. The witch jumped out from behind the door, and the guest was rushing after her. The girl asked to wait for her, but Nilsi doesn't want to teach her anything. She would have fallen down the stairs, but Javier caught his sister in time. The guy doesn't understand what's going on. Emily explained everything. Is she completely? Amazed Rum. And remind about the hostess's unwillingness to teach, so the empty one is not imposed. The guest fell on her knees and asks for forgiveness. In Javier's opinion, the guest hadn't done anything wrong. He turned to Nilsi. If the boy saved the vine, would his sister be happy? Then it would be the right thing to do. Was something bothering? The girl just turned away. She once taught a student the plan for eternal life. But in the end, this girl died tragically because of her mentor. Even now, the witch dreams of this nightmarish scene from time to time. So, when Nilsi heard the guest call her a teacher, she subconsciously felt scared. And she remembered the words of Mummin. A witch brings disaster to everything around her. But that was from the past, Nilsi. And she's just a traveler. Okay. So be it. The girl has nothing to regret. Maybe this will help her get rid of the series of failures of that Nilsi. The lady is ready to teach magic to the guys. From tomorrow, the three of them will come to lessons. Emily was happy, and Rum was surprised. He too? But Nilsi demands to obey any of her orders. Do they understand everything? The girl looked at her future charges with a smile. A bright sunny day. Emily and Rum are jogging. Javier is furiously chopping wood. Nilsi praised the guy. He did well and therefore can rest. The guy reminded about free time and asks to let him run with the guys. Nilsi sits on a rocking chair under a summer umbrella and drinks. She doesn't mind his jogging. Emily slept so little yesterday, she barely had time to open her eyes before they were forced to run and swing a sword again. The girl didn't think that they needed to train their physical strength to learn magic. Her friend definitely thinks that Nilsi is a witch. And she reminds them of the need to run 7 more laps. Let them run until the sand in the hourglass runs out. 3 hours later, Emily and Rum were sitting and resting. Javier asked his sister, "Are they done with physical training? What to do next?" Nilsi ordered to clean the room and get some water. And she wonders what Javier thinks about this. The guy doesn't understand. Should he have his own opinion? The witch thought that the brother would be upset if the sister teased the guests. Aren't they 3 friends? According to Javier, he believes that the girl does this for the boys for their own good. Moreover, he does not want them to stay here only for this reason. And in the evening, he knocked on Nilsi's room. He wanted to bring her dinner. The girl was holding the vine in her hands again. He stood there and couldn't enter. In the morning, they started the lesson with the most basic transformation spell. Nilsi ordered everyone to take their magic staffs. Emily seems to have an ordinary branch in her hands. Rum recommends his comrades to rejoice. They are lucky. He got a stem of some agricultural crop. According to the witch, the wand is just a tool. Any long object can be used as a catalyst for magic. Nilsi promises that in the future, the boys will find a suitable staff. It's never too late to change your choice. And she decided to set an example for them. Javier whispers to his sister, "Will she accidentally reveal her identity if she uses magic?" She asks him not to worry. When the lady is in a good mood, she is no different from an ordinary magician. Nilsi took the magic red ball and then made a few movements with her staff. Rum was disappointed because nothing happened. But a fiery firebird suddenly appeared in the sky and flew away. Rum is in a panic. Doesn't understand what just happened? Nilsi smiles. This is the transformation spell she just cast on the sparrow. She suggested that the students try it too. The boys still can't believe it. Javier looked and thought. His sister is an ordinary wizard for the boys. Emily wants to test herself. She pointed a stick at the bird sitting on a branch. She concentrated mentally, but nothing came of it. The teacher and Javier looked at her with a frown. Emily understood everything when she looked at Rum. He had a pumpkin instead of a head. The unfortunate boy was beside himself with anger. The teacher asks the boy and girl not to run away too far and to come back quickly. Javier does not want them to stay for this reason alone. Rum tried to attack Emily, and she promises to fix everything right now. Her next move turned the pumpkin into a pig's head. Did she do it on purpose? The poor guy is really angry. Nilsi could hardly contain her laughter, but eventually she couldn't and laughed. Then Rum returned to his usual appearance and they continued training. The boys' birds turned into kitchen utensils. Nilsi just watched from the sidelines, sitting on the wooden boxes. Rum brought the lady a kite, which was still chirping. The apprentice frowned. Did his work count as a successful completion? The witch knew that Rum could transform beings into inanimate objects, meaning he had a mediocre level. Anyone could do that, even an ordinary person. The guy had 57 points. Emily was carrying a lot of little animals. She wants to make a rabbit, but it is very difficult for now. According to the sorceress, the girl has mastered the basic essence of the transformation spell, not counting the inaccuracies. The girl can be considered an outstanding talent. Here are 87 points. But Nilsi will not tell the girl about this. She is one of those who can be carried away. But the girl is happy with the superiority in points over her friend. Emily doesn't understand why she can't choose which animal she will make. Javier is sure that the student will definitely succeed in the future if she practices more. The guest asks Javier to show his efforts. Rum agrees. Lady Nilsi has a very powerful transformation, and it is difficult for them to learn from such an example. The guy thought about it. The witch is sure that now it will be interesting. The guy started waving a branch staff. Emily thinks his aura is different from the others. The bird that was near Javier just flew away. The guys are confused. Did he just cause a gust of wind? Rum doesn't understand their confidence in their friend's ability to succeed. The girl pointed to the confident expression on the guy's face, as if he knew he would succeed. Javier smiles. It seems to him that something is wrong here. Nilsi couldn't help but burst out laughing. Her brother couldn't do it. Emily couldn't understand why the teacher decided that. It was too early to draw conclusions. Javier reminded them of the saying, "The stupid bird flies first." He believes that even a stubborn stone will one day gain enlightenment. If one loses hope at the sight of the first failure of the disciples, then the teacher is not worthy of being an example to follow. Rum asks him not to say that. Nilsi turned to Emily. She said that the lady is not worthy of being a mentor? Children are so rude these days, so the girl needs to be taught a lesson. The witch threw a stream of fire at the student, but Javier managed to parry the blow with his sword, and the boy immediately ran to his sister. She admitted that she had gone too far, but she asked him to look at herself. Isn't the answer in his hands? According to the witch, the boy has an excellent talent for fencing and an excellent fighting instinct. His innate healing skill can be used to strengthen his body and save the weak. The girl called Javier a holy knight, and so he was from birth. She asks him not to worry about failures in learning magic. One day he will leave Nilsi and learn to be an excellent knight. Nilsi smiles and asks the guy not to forget to repay her when the time comes. The guy just looked at the girl sadly, and then he turned around and walked in the other direction. She didn't understand what happened to him. In the evening, the boys were getting ready to leave. Javier was going to stay alone and train. He took a deep breath and started training in the middle of the forest. I'm surprised by this, Nilsi. She didn't know about his passion for magic. Emily doesn't want to lose to him. Rum got a little angry. He mentioned people who get obsessed with things they have no interest in. But this is about someone they care about. It's personal. Nilsi repeated the words thoughtfully. Rum was ready with an example. That's why Emily is learning magic. The girl thinks it's cool. But for her friend, it's a bad example. After all, people in this world have different motivations for progress. Some do it for fame and wealth, and some for faith. According to Rum, Javier is neither of those. The reason he wants to succeed in magic is because he has the same goal as their teacher. The mage and the knight have two completely different paths. If he leaves here to learn fencing, then when the mentor and the protege meet again, will their relationship remain the same? Rum is so smart? Emily is amazed. And Nilsi noted the high emotional intelligence of the student. But he thinks that this is not what the ladies should have paid attention to. His girlfriend does not know how to cheer up Javier, but Nilsi had a good idea. She gathered everyone and they went deeper into the forest to practice magic attacks. The lady asks the guys to be careful because there are many monsters here. Suddenly, a pack of wolves came out onto the path. Nilsi was horrified. They had broken into the lair of these predators. But she immediately ordered the group to stand behind her. Rum was sure that the lady would cope with these animals. Nilsi held out her staff, but the wolves rushed at the people. The lady screamed as if she was acting like an actress. Javier rushed forward and repelled the attack of the wolves. He turned around and asked his sister if she was okay. Nilsi reassured. Everything is fine. She just didn't have time to cast the spell. If it weren't for the guy, they would all have died here. Never before had the sorceress found herself in such dangerous spells. An actress, Emily thought of her. The lady got down on one knee and asked Javier to protect them. He chuckled quietly. If his sister asked, he would do it. Nilsi was pleased. Her plan had worked. The guy killed all the wolves with his next blows. He asks his comrades not to be afraid. All the beasts are dead. The group can continue training. Emily and Rum are delighted. They call their friend the best swordsman in the world, as expected of him. It was very exciting for the witch. She didn't know what to do if her Javier wasn't here and now. The guy was the sorceress's savior, but he was silent. The lack of reaction was noticed by two students. Rum and was sure that it would not work. Javier was always very mature beyond his years, and he turned around in surprise and looked at them. He ran up to Nilsi and asked, "Is it true that he helped her?" The guy asks to repeat it again. Emily would never have thought that their savior could be so easily deceived. The girl felt a little disappointed. Question from Rum. Does she really think that Javier fell for it? Emily began, and her friend continued. What was he talking about? This feeling that belongs only to those two? If it weren't for Javier, Nilsi wouldn't know what to do. The guy asked her to repeat it again. She thanked the noble knight again, he demanded again, and Nilsi did not know how to escape from such persistence. And after some time during training, Emily was able to restore the grapevine. Nilsi is also happy. It really worked. Thanks to her talents, the student was able to accumulate enough magic in such a short time. Although it may delay the death of the vine, it works. Nilsi herself at that time was sure that she would not succeed. Due to her long stay in solitude, the lady became unsure and was afraid to take a step forward. Emily interrupted her thoughts. She came up with a name for the plant. The girl remembers that the lady did not name the plant, fearing that she would be unhappy if they parted. But now everything is different. Although the girl has only completed the first step, she has a premonition of success. Emily asks the teacher to trust her, but she doesn't know what to call the vine. She came up with a nickname, Ball. Rum doesn't understand what the branch has to do with the ball. Then the student suggested the name Quasavadsa, but that was also rejected. Nilsi had a flash of a bloody girl with big eyes, but the illusion disappeared. Emily's new name is Wendy. For some reason, she thinks the vine is female. In the sorceress's opinion, they are all good, but it is best to discuss them later. And she needs to go home and change first. The students do not mind. Emily is worried because the teacher feels uncomfortable. Nilsi went inside and closed the door. Mummin is sure she likes this girl. The witch disagrees. Not really. She is really talented and takes her studies seriously, but the sorceress needs to take care of her. No matter how gifted a person is, there is a difference between them and a true genius. Emily may still be immersed in the joy of learning magic, but one day it will become clear that there is an unbridgeable gap between them, just like Michaela Simon then. This girl appeared many times in Nilsi's dreams and always with bloodstains all over her body. In the witch's past life, she was her first and last student. There are only a few lines about her in the novel. Despite this, looking at Michaela, a smile did not leave Nilsi's face. But in the end, the girl died at the hands of her own teacher. Even if the witch keeps reminding herself that it is not the same person, the feeling of anxiety will still torment her heart from time to time. Nilsi stood in front of the closed window in a grave condition. She wanted to take this step, but she was in the grip of emotions. The lady does not consider herself suitable for establishing this kind of close relationship with people. Nilsi opened the window and saw Javier in front of her. The girl reminded him about the ban on entering her room through the window. The guy objected. If he had entered through the main entrance, Nilsi would not have opened it. He informed about Rum and Emily's desire to go to the city after dinner. There, they want to choose magic wands, so the guys don't have to practice with wands anymore. And it happened that Javier needs to buy something for the house. He suggested Nilsi to go together, but Nilsi doesn't want to. She hasn't been out in public for 6 years. The guy thinks that what was in the past is still there. A lot has changed on the outside over all these years. And Rum told about a restaurant where they bake delicious waffles. Javier suggests going to this place and trying them. Nilsi is angry and doesn't want to go anywhere. She just likes to sit at home. The girl doesn't want to see people. Why does he always persuade her? Javier. She asks why, and he thought, because spring is coming soon. The young fencer looked at the girl smiling and peacefully. A woman with a child was walking through the market square selling fresh fruit. Children were running and adults were walking, on business and without. There were posters with photos of wanted people hanging on the wall. Nilsi approached the posters and started to sort through them. She didn't find herself there. And 6 years had passed, and no one was looking for her anymore? She was surprised, but then began to rejoice loudly. The companions looked at the lady strangely. Emily is surprised that Nilsi is happy about such things. She has some strange hobby. Javier offered his sister some lollipops. He thinks she is happy about the nice weather today. Nilsi ate the candies with pleasure. Emily saw on the wall a picture of a man who stole only 3 loaves of bread and 10 coins. He was wanted for such a trifle? According to the Master Knight, it is quite safe here and there are few serious incidents. Rum also thinks so. After the fall of the Holy See, chaos and a tenfold increase in crime were expected. And suddenly, with the new management, life became much better. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise? Nilsi smiles at the guys. It was decided to go shopping. Passers-by looked at the newcomers in surprise. Emily always felt like people in the square were looking at them. Rum asked, "Does she really think so?" Then let her look at the brother and sister. They were eating candy and talking to each other. Rum and Emily decided to go faster. All 4 of them then sat at a table on the terrace of the tavern looking at the magic staffs. Nilsi liked one of them, which she eventually bought. The girl suggested that her friends go to the next market stall. Rum suggested that Javier stop the witch. She had emptied the entire street, so they would soon have no money left. But for the night, this was not important. Javier knew this day would come, so he saved up a sum of money for many years that he could spend freely. For the guy, Nilsi's happiness is the most important thing. And she looked at Emily's map. If you go along the river, there will be a floating market. Suddenly, a strange passerby bumped into Emily. He angrily demanded that the girl watch where she was going. And he walked on. The girl didn't know him. And it's strange that he approached her first and bumped into her. But then Emily discovered that her bag with money was missing. She left the Nilsi bags and rushed after the impudent thief. "Let him stay where he is," she screamed. Emily threatens him with her magic wand for the theft. The guy is surprised. What is this girl up to? He asks her to stop talking nonsense. Emily has already aimed a magic staff at her opponent with the aim of destroying him. Attention! Attack intent detected. Suddenly, a magical wall appeared between the student of magic and the thief, which reflected the girl's blow right back at her. Emily fell to the ground and found herself in a magical triangle. She does not understand how and what it is. Rum runs to her friend, afraid for her. The girl asks to be released. Javier looks at Nilsi, but she quickly stops him. The robber tries to leave, but is detained by the city guards. They announce the name of the detainee, George Moore, 37 of 19 Beam Street, arrested for theft. The guard looked at Emily and scrolled through her lists. Strangely, she was not registered in their database. The guard assumed that there was a foreigner in front of her, but whoever she was, she would have to go with them. Nilsi came up and asked them to wait. She asked what mistake the girl had made to be taken away. The guard put her hand to her head. That's why she always talks about problems from foreigners. But next time, she'll definitely tell the boss about the need for strict protection of the entrances and exits to the city. She pointed to the badge on her left chest, which depicted a sword and leaves. It was the symbol of Heimdoll's Illuminati. In this country, only those who possessed it had the right to use magical powers. According to the law enforcement officer, Nilsi's companion tried to use magic to attack a person. According to the law, they will now be arrested for illegal lynching. Her partner with long hair confirmed this. If those who came resist, they will be considered accomplices. The guard suggests not to act rashly. Nilsi began to cast a spell. She asked with a grin, "What will they do in that case?" The guard girl is surprised. The stranger has just destroyed the restraining device and freed her companion. If you don't understand its magical scheme, you can achieve the effect by using a lot of magic. And if that's the case, she turned to her colleague and asked him, Oliver, to be careful with this woman. But the employee was already kneeling next to Nilsi. He asked her, the powerful and beautiful lady, to stay in the city with him. The guard is angry. Is he doing it again? Oliver continued to admire the strength and charm of the foreigner. He begs her to fulfill his request, and this will be the best moment in the young man's life. Oliver even asked the lady to use her strong legs and hit him in the face well. Suddenly, Javier appeared between them, who almost killed the guard with his sword. He jumped back. Oliver raised his hands up in a peaceful manner. He understood. The lady already seemed to have her faithful dog. His partner ran up to him. She had already told him about the need to restrain himself with girls. Oliver asks her not to shout loudly. The colleague is unhappy with the employee. Does he even have a sense of shame? Because of him, Heimdoll's Illuminati just disgraced themselves. But the guy repeated the same movements with magic with his hands as Nilsi. He healed himself a little. The brother and sister looked at him intently. Nilsi realized he was the same holy knight as her Javier. Emily and Rum thought both sides would continue to fight. What to do? The guards demanded that Emily be handed over to them before they counted to 3. Otherwise, Nilsi and Javier would be considered accomplices and taken away together. After 1, the girl's brother asked her in a panic, what should he do? 2. The witch didn't want to start a fight here. It would be bad if her identity was revealed here. But she couldn't just watch them take her student. 3. It seemed like there was no other choice. Both sides rushed at each other, but the fight never took place. Rum stood between them. He asked the citizens to stay away from this place so as not to get hurt. This street is so big, there are a lot of people here. More and more worried people gather in a circle. The swords have no eyes. If a fight breaks out, it is possible that the fighters will injure innocent people. According to Rum, their goal is to punish the offenders, not to increase the number of victims. If the issue can be resolved peacefully, why shouldn't they do it? The Guardian doesn't mind. It would really be better that way. Nilsi is delighted with the boy. Never thought he was a good negotiator. The boy explains that he is from the mountains and does not understand the city rules. He and his friends are very scared by the sudden notification and the Golden Dome. Rum whispers to Emily to apologize right now. The girl says she is very sorry. She understands that she was wrong. She asks not to arrest her and not to put her in prison. After a short thought, the guard agreed to forget about it. Yes, these guys are still young and ignorant, so they will be released. But they will still have to follow the guards to the headquarters. Those 2 will go too. She pointed at the witch and her protector. Rum turned to Nilsi and said, they should go anyway. The girl doesn't mind. It's much better than it could have been. Besides, she's worried about these Illuminati of Heimdoll. The witch did not consider the guard and her Oliver as ordinary people. If you compare them with the warriors of the Holy See, they have the strength of generals, especially that paladin, the long-haired guard. He took Javier's blow solely to test the latter. If they had to fight, the sorceress's brother would not have stood a chance. They are also extremely influential among the public. Nilsi remembered the triangle Emily found herself in, a magical device that could trap people. The girl had never seen anything like it. Who created it? The butterfly effect that was caused by Nilsi destroying the Holy Throne is getting stronger and stronger. Nilsi needs a lot of information about this world. Soon they came to the headquarters of the city guard. The boys' mouths dropped open in surprise from the books flying everywhere. The building itself was erected from the foundation of the Holy Throne. Previously, it was a place of imprisonment for pagans, and now in this room they make decisions on some everyday state affairs. 4 guests saw George Moore. The guard called him a hardened thief, sentenced to 3 months' imprisonment. The guard, already familiar to the witch and her friends, scolded the robber. Last time he was released because the guy needed money for medicine for his mother. He swore to work hard when he left these walls. They believed him, but he got back to his old ways. George responded angrily. Do they think it's easy to find a good job here? Do the guards know how hard it is for people with a criminal past? George told how he searched all over the city, but no one wanted to hire him. Moreover, the guy was humiliated. His mother needed medication, and Moore could not wait any longer, so he went back to his old ways. The guard's face softened. The thief thought that high-ranking officials like law enforcement didn't care about the lives of ordinary people like him. Another employee, Maria, was asked about working without previous experience. There is a suggestion about weaving. The same red-haired guard remembered the high price of the spinning wheel, and the thief's family already had to rely on thefts for survival. Maria offered to give the guy tools from their department. Moore could make products and sell them. The idea was appreciated. After all, then the criminal would sell embroidery and no one would care about his criminal record. George was taken to the 8th Department, where there are those responsible for training. The Red Guard turned to the thief and promised to send his mother to a community rescue center. He would have to study hard for 3 months. Surprised George thanked for his concern. The 4 guests are surprised. Rum is sure that there are very good people here. The guard found no information about their village. In the population department catalog, she clarified, "Is it called Stone Forest?" The guys confirmed. According to the secretary, registration of new settlements occurs once every 2 months. Sometimes there are omissions. This is quite normal. She asks to pass on personal data. Then the service will send someone to register the boys in the village. Rum identified himself. His parents were dead. He reported 2 sisters. All their ancestors were residents of the Stone Forest. Emily told about herself. There are 4 people in her family. Herself, father, and mother. Father is from another country. Mother moved to the village after marriage. Now the guards are interested in the brunette and the fair-haired guy. Nilsi didn't know how to explain their stay 6 years ago, but Javier took the floor. He said that they were brother and sister, and their parents were dead. The children were born and raised in the village of Stone Forest. After registration, Redhead the guard called the boys to follow her. Rum caught up with Javier and asked, why did he call him and his sister local villagers? After all, if the secret was revealed, they would be accused of deception. The guy replied, does Rum think the guards will put in that much effort? If they checked every person, they wouldn't have the strength to work. Javier just wants to avoid being followed. Besides, Rum had already seen the consequences of being too honest. The secretary wondered what kingdom Emily's father was from. He was a foreigner. The girl answered that he rarely mentioned it. The secretary asks to remember. Otherwise it will be bad. You will have to register twice. Emily first mentioned her father's studies in the village, but then corrected herself. He did study in the city. Now Emily seems suspicious to the agency employee. Rum and Javier were watching this. The first agrees with his comrade's previous words. The second asks not to take this too seriously. Javier hopes Rum will keep it a secret. Emily is soon released, which makes her happy. The girl for a moment begins to doubt the uniqueness of her father. Her comrades suggest she read the charter and see how many years her father would have been sentenced to. Emily is amazed by the stack of books. Does she have to read everything? The answer, no, just the latest version of the national rules. And also the history of the development of the Illuminati Heimdoll. According to the Red Guardian, these are the only books that need to be read thoroughly. And what about the one that lies next to them? Biography of Oliver. The guards plan to use it to start a fire. Nilsi asked again, Oliver is a holy knight? She just didn't expect to meet such a strong man in such a small town. Isn't that the same for them? This level of magic, before the witch destroyed the holy throne, she was at least a high-level magician? The guard asks. The closer visitors get to the center of the imperial city, the more restrictions they will encounter. The most powerful wizards live in seclusion in the mountains. Although Oliver is a holy knight, the guests have seen his personality. He has absolutely no place in the imperial city. The Illuminati's work is hard, but it has its advantages. Among them are people from all regions and walks of life, but they never discriminate against each other. That is why there are so many unusual people here. Redhead. The guard admitted that she really likes it here. She wonders why Nilsi suddenly wanted to ask about Oliver. Is he interesting to her? The guest immediately denies. No, she just asked. She knew. All these characters never appeared in the novel. It seems that the creation of this organization was a reaction after the destruction of the Holy See of Nilsi. The Illuminati of Heimdoll was founded in 3125. They replaced the Holy See and took over its duties. The founder of the organization was Brett Rates. a former military commander of the Holy See Army. The royal family approved of their activities. After the war, the witch and the Holy See, who had sworn to cooperate, disappeared. But one by one, the innovators joined Heimdoll's Illuminati. The structure was warmly accepted by society and took part in military, medical, compulsory education, and other spheres. The leader is Brett Rates, captain of the Knights, Oliver Sissendi. Nilsi read in a book about corporal punishment of children in the form of detention for 5 days. Emily also saw restrictions on food and verbal abuse. The girl wanted her mother to notice. Rum reads about the punishment for large-scale vandalism, imprisonment for more than 6 months. His sister would have to spend at least a couple of years behind bars. According to the red-haired guard, minors will be treated accordingly. Therefore, guests can participate in social activities and will not have problems. Javier wonders if the law and rules are so strict, are there enough people in the security structures? The guard reported a solution to this problem. Their leader is the type who does not see the speck in his own eye. Strict compliance with the law is necessary regardless of the size of the offense. If he finds out that the guards let the guys go without permission, they will definitely be punished. The organization is still in its early stages of development. Therefore, they need personnel both to popularize the law and to ensure its observance. Despite the round-the-clock work, there are still fish, like guests, who escape from the net. The Guardian has a proposition for the boys. Do they wish to join Heimdoll Illuminati? Nilsi replied, "That's not in their plans." Emily was surprised by this. Why? Wouldn't it be great to become a civil servant? By getting the Heimdaller badge, the boys would be allowed to legally use offensive magic. Rum is ironic. Does the girl really want to fight with someone? The guard assured, "This is just a suggestion. They will have time to think about it. Soon the guests will meet with the Minister of Magic, but most of all, they want to get this kid into their ranks." And she pointed to Javier. When Oliver fought him earlier, he deliberately took the boy's blow to test his strength. Then the knight called Javier very promising, and he can't be missed. But if the guys want to refuse personally, the guard suggests that they tell Oliver personally. She's just a messenger. The woman suggests going to him. They won't lose anything. Who knows? Maybe the guys will find something for themselves. Javier looked at the guard excitedly. The guests came to the training and saw how the students were training. The guard called Oliver, who was watching the training. She reported, "She brought the guys," as he asked. "The guy is happy to see Nilsi." The knight took the witch by the hands. What a beautiful girl. But the next second, the redhead knocked him to the ground and Nilsi shielded Javier. Getting up, the knight asked about the boy joining Heimdoll. Javier apologized, but he didn't intend to join. He didn't think he would learn anything here. Oliver threw a wooden sword to his guest and asked him not to make decisions so quickly. He suggested sparring. The knight is sure he can help Javier. They stood opposite each other, ready to fight. The comrades cheered for the boy. Nilsi silently watched the fighters. The battle began. Javier quickly jumped up. Oliver is pleased with the enemy's actions. He smiles. The boys froze in surprise, but the knight deftly dodged and put the tip of his sword to Javier's neck. Oliver called the opponent's basic skills still very weak, asked the guy about his fencing training, disappointed at the waste of the guy's good physical preparation and his fighting instincts. If this continues, the guest will lose his talent. In other words, if Javier is eager to learn, it is only a matter of time before he surpasses Oliver. The excited boy asks Nilsi for permission to stay and learn fencing. She is surprised by his desire to ask permission. But the girl does not agree because the place is far away. How much time will the guy spend on the way there and back? And about the house? Will he leave all the work to her? Lady demands that Javier think about others before doing something. The guy was visibly upset and resigned if his sister said so. The girl grinned and flicked her brother on the forehead. She affectionately called him a silly boy who listens to Nilsi and everything. And where is his own will? A guy doesn't owe a girl anything. He has the right to make his own decisions. If Nilsi was the type of person who would ignore a guy's future just for her own convenience, then she wouldn't be worth Javier's effort. If he wants to stay and train, then let him do so. A Nilsi ready to wait for him at home. The girl smiled sincerely. Javier became sad now. In his opinion, this was a cruel joke from his beloved sister. Javier, holding his sword with a solemn air, announced to his sister that he was leaving for training. Guardian pleased with the successful recruitment of a new person. Thus, half of the recruitment, KPs, have been achieved this month. Nilsi brushes the boy off, and he promises to continue cooking and doing housework as usual, and to never lower his sister's quality of life because of school. Now she needs to make a teleport for Javier so that he doesn't have to walk there and back every day. The guard promises the girl to send people to the village to set up the teleportation system. The boy doesn't have to travel through mountains and ridges every day to attend classes here. Emily saw many magical devices here that she hadn't seen before. It seemed to her that the teacher was doing incredible things, but there was something new here. Soon they were in the library. The guard is pleased that the guests understand how magical devices work. Everything they saw in Heimdoll, including the device that got Emily into prison, was the work of their minister. But she also faced one problem. As said, Heimdall's rules are complicated, but an invention is currently being worked on that will fix everything. The legal system is on the right track. Before that, the inhabitants were just trying to survive. In extreme cases, more than half of the city's population may suffer from minor violations. The guards must strictly enforce the law, otherwise it will not be a deterrent and crime will not be reduced. But if you arrest everyone, society will not be able to function normally. It would be strange if the prisons were full and the cities were empty. The problem is also in the maintenance and feeding of prisoners, but the guards found a way. The redhead touched the box with the burning candle. The minister is now working on a magical device that can change the perception of time. The prisoner thinks he has served a 3-month sentence, but in reality only 3 days have passed. Thus, all prisoners will receive the punishment they deserve, the guard believes. And this will not affect the normal functioning of society. Isn't that a great idea? In a past life, Nilsi tried her hand at alchemy to study the magic of immortality, a device to measure the speed of time. These are like the remains of her experiments. Nilsi had already begun to guess who this minister of magic was. They came to the last one. The guard informed him that she had brought someone, but the stool on which this person stood began to wobble. The minister was standing near a shelf of books, and they started to fall. The redhead ran to help the boss. She reproaches the girl boss. She, as always, is not careful. The minister promises to handle it himself. The subordinate has her own work. According to the guard, her job is to help the minister. If she falls and gets hurt, it will be a loss for Heimdoll, and she asks for forgiveness from the guests for such an awkward start to their acquaintance. Introduced the Minister of Magic production department of the organization to the guys. The latter was wildly surprised to see the guys. Nilsi recognized it. It was Michaela Semen. The next moment, the girl was already smiling. Emily doesn't understand what's going on? The minister is almost her age. In Rum's opinion, the teacher would be ashamed to work under this little girl. But Nilsi didn't answer and stared ahead. The boy is shocked by the teacher's behavior. Is she really like this because of her breakup with Javier? He asked the girl not to cry because the fencer will be back in the evening. Emily hit Rum for such words. Was it the first time he encountered something like this? Nilsi has one peculiarity. When she sees something sad, she is unable to hold back her tears. The boy does not understand. What is sad? The girl replied, like death, separation, or something like that. The lady opposite, judging by her appearance, will not live long. Nilsi asked the student not to say such things. This time everything is different. Nilsi didn't feel that endless loneliness for the first time when she cried. It's understandable. Even if she's hated, misunderstood, and bears all the sins, she wanted to kill the one who died because of her. This time, Nilsi will be lucky enough to find what she lost long ago. Right? Michaela Simon looked at the surprised, slightly red-haired guard with a smile. The redhead is interested in the results of the experiment, but Michaela had no progress. She apologized. The guard does not demand this. She does not rush the girl minister. The latter regrets and considers herself useless. She is sad that even her assistant looks down on her. Michaela had already spoken about her reluctance to take this position. According to the redhead, her boss is extremely shy, and she needs to be careful when talking to her. Otherwise, it will cause an inferiority complex. And this is all bad. You need to find a way to distract her attention. The redhead turned to the guests and wants to introduce them to Michaela. She found new assistants. Michaela apologizes for making everyone worry. Zora, the guard, always helped find assistance, but they all ran away. And if the new ones don't want to, she doesn't force them. Nilsi and Michaela were almost crying. Zora was beside herself. Were these two master and apprentice in their past lives? Why were they such crybabies? Nilsi smiled. She was fine. She just got sand in her eyes. The witch thought of an old acquaintance. After walking in circles, she returned here. Even her character is as timid as before. Nilsi asks Michaela to help prepare a bottle of soothing perfume. Doesn't she know about it? It's a perfume made of wisteria and goldenrod, which can calm the mood. But it has side effects. When the drug wears off, the emotions double. People harm themselves because of it. Nilsi asks Michaela if she has ever thought about making it out of branches and leaves. Michaela thinks about it. It makes sense. Only parts of a flower are used to create a calming perfume, but the existence of magic potions mutually reinforce each other, and this destroys the balance. If you think about it from this point of view, then you must first dry it in the sun and grind it into powder. Michaela would have been able to enhance its healing effect. Zora had successfully distracted attention. She looked at Nilsi. She got along well with the young sorceress. Emily thought, standing next to them. Simon picked up one of the flasks and smiled. She apologized for causing the guests anxiety. She asked the redhead who these people were. Zora, a troublemaker with accomplices. They accidentally committed a crime because they were here for the first time. They are also very capable. Zora brought them to see if they could help the sorceress. Emily clarified. Michaela is the Minister of Magic? This same sorceress is not much older than the girl, but is already so good? Seaman said that she was born into a family of magicians. Her brothers and sisters are famous sorcerers, and she is the least talented of them all. The girl's parents were disappointed with their daughter and, thanks to their connections, were able to send her to study at the Holy See. When she got there, she was struck by the terrible atmosphere and devastation. Emily asked, "Is it because of the witch?" Michaela confirmed. Yes, and after that she did not dare to return home. But Lord Brait accepted the girl here, because here she can prove herself and help others. And the sorceress has already done several useful things, and now she owes a lot to the Lord. Zora objects. She does not owe anything to anyone. The girl smiled. She really likes this life. This is a blessing in disguise for Seaman. She immediately apologized in fear. She remembered that she had to work, and she forgot to present her research. She pointed to the drawings. The Ministry of Magic is currently divided into 4 different departments. Michaela and her colleagues are researching in several areas. Guests can choose whichever they like. There is simplified basic magic. It allows you to process and improve spells left by predecessors to improve the effectiveness of training trainee wizards. Then comes the study of magical devices. With the help of alchemy and magic contained in the device, people who do not know the basics of magic will be able to enjoy the conveniences of witchcraft and improve the quality of life of people and the Illuminati. Enchantment, sealing magic into a knight's sword can be used to enhance the knight's combat performance. And here's the twist. Everyone entered a dark room with tall doors. Nilsi's eyes widened in surprise. Michaela pointed to the magic circle the group was currently focusing on. It had the ability to change the flow of time. Don't underestimate that. If all goes well, people will be able to get eternal life. Emily is amazed by what she heard, as is Nilsi. The sorceress turned to the latter. Has Zora already told her about the origin of this building? After the fall of the Holy See, the remaining bases were used by their leaders. When the Illuminati of Heimdoll was founded, the ruins were cleared and people found the remaining magic circle, half studied by the sea. At first, Michaela took it for an ordinary magic circle that stopped time for a short period of time. But as she studied it more deeply, she discovered that its capabilities were beyond her comprehension. If successful, all of humanity could be freed from the mortal threat. Everyone would become immortal beings, like the elves. Emily thought it was black magic, but Simon disagreed. In popular fantasy novels, magic is often divided into good and bad, calling spells beyond human cognition black magic, but the latter is neutral, and there is no difference between evil and good. Emily asked Nilsi, "Is this true?" She replied, "Yes. So transfiguration is a convenient and fun spell for a girl. But is it kind for the sparrow whose form is changed? The artificial division between good and evil changes over time. Different countries and even parties will have different views on the same spells. There have been many spells in history that were called black magic. In subsequent studies, they were gradually whitewashed. They eventually became an important link in the history of magical sciences. According to Michaela, this research has received royal approval and is completely legal. She was worried about possible misunderstandings among the guests, but it turned out that they support the girl. Nilsi pulled her hands away from her friend. She didn't agree with her. After all, magic is neither good nor bad. It doesn't mean that the path of magic will be easy and carefree. Nilsi once naively believed that she had dedicated her life to studying, but she soon discovered that the reality was very different from her good wishes. Pressure, and then forced to harm innocent people. As a result, she was betrayed and deprived of all loved ones. Eternal life is an irresistible temptation for most people. Once this research becomes known, everything will get out of control. Nilsi must stop this experiment. Powerful people are eagerly awaiting its successful completion. This must not happen. Michaela smiled carefreely, and Nilsi looked at her coldly. Mummin inquired about her possible desire to kill the young sorceress. This is not the witch's usual style. Nilsi asks the spirit to be silent. Not to kill now, at least. Mummin asks the girl to think about her return. She is here to nip in the bud plans for eternal life. And if we don't take action now, how much longer will we have to wait? Mummin continued to insist on the witch's need to destroy everything here. Let the city be soaked in corpses and blood, just like Nilsi did before. She will find a way to make Michaela give up the experiment. But the latter informed the king's family about it, and the thoughtless use of force will alert the enemy. According to Mummin, this is a really good reason. If the girl succeeds during this time, what should she do? A second or even third Holy See is possible. Nilsi is sure this will not happen. And all for one reason. Michaela has no talent at all. Nilsi sat down near the magic circle. Yes, research progress has stalled and is still at a very preliminary stage. These ancient spells will later become an obstacle that she will not be able to overcome. For a while, there is no need to worry about the threats coming from the project. The remnants of an organization that was once dissolved. The ability to receive large amounts of financial aid in a short period of time. Someone is behind this. Nilsi does not know if this person is part of the Illuminati or a higher power. This is one of the worst possible scenarios. The most important thing for Nilsi now is to get as much information as possible from Michaela. She herself is actually a witch who destroyed the Holy See. All Nilsi did was ruin the throne's plan for immortality. And if Michaela doesn't want the world to plunge into chaos, then just let her tell the witch who entrusted her with such tasks. Simon is surprised by what he heard. The sorceress asks the girl not to worry, because she will tell everything she knows. Nilsi covered her face. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Suddenly, Javier called her, dragging the drunk Oliver. The knight was seated on a bench. Michaela asks what is wrong with him. According to Javier, the warrior promised to teach him fencing, but the boy did not learn anything new for himself, except for basic exercises. And Oliver told the boy about his intention to drink alone. And when Javier went to look for him after training, Oliver was already drunk. The latter pointed to Zora. She doesn't have time to control him today. Oliver offered Michaela a drink with him, but she refused. She doesn't like the taste of wine. Nilsi realized, it's high time. And she offered the sorceress a drink too, as she allegedly wants one herself. Nilsi's thoughts. If you get Michaela drunk, she might give you the information you need. It's sneaky but effective. They rarely get together, so why not throw a party? Simon pointed to her pile of work. Besides, alcohol will affect the girl's thinking. Nilsi is sorry. She couldn't shake the feeling that they both had a lot in common. The witch wanted to improve their relationship, but she didn't think it would cause Michaela any inconvenience. Nilsi herself seems too sentimental. And the magic minister quickly agreed to have a drink with the guest. She loves parties so much, and she can work tomorrow. Nilsi is glad. Simon broke down so quickly. They really did find common ground quickly. Javier looked at them sullenly. While the girls drank one cup after another, Oliver tried not to die from too much wine. Nilsi asked her new friend to drink to the meeting. and they won't go home until they are completely drunk. Michaela doesn't know why, but she feels like she has known her interlocutor for a long time. When the sorceress first saw Nilsi, she wanted to get closer to her, as if they knew each other in past lives. The witch was surprised. Strange, Nilsi clearly returned to the past. How is this possible? Michaela told about her low self-esteem in childhood, but even now it hasn't become much higher. When she first came here, the girl found close friends and felt needed. And she also took on an important task. Simon is sure that she will definitely succeed, even if she has to pay for everything. The girl drooped and buried her face in her interlocutor's knees. Nilsi asked the sorceress for forgiveness, both before and now. She couldn't cope with the duties of a teacher. Again and again, her dreams are destroyed. But she hopes for the survival of her friend. The witch left, leaving Michaela and Oliver alone. Nilsi walked into the data room. The Ministry of Magic staff is in high demand and changes quickly, but all information about them is stored here. If the lady wants to clear things up, she needs to... Found it. The directory contained a list of the Ministry of Magic employees. Perhaps Nilsi would find some clues here. Someone asked from behind, "What is she doing here?" They noticed. The witch became wary. She looked back and saw Javier. Why him? The guy was looking at the girl with an unkind look. As a result of the incident, 37 people died, and 762 people lost their memory after brainwashing. During the investigation, it was revealed that, with the exception of 11 high-ranking officials, the remaining 26 who died either participated in illegal experiments on people or destroyed heretics. All of them are people with unforgivable sins. In 3128, to calm the panic among the people, with the consent of the royal family, the leader of Brate announced the end of the public witch hunt. But these are empty words. Nilsi thought that after 6 years, they stopped hunting her, but it is not so. These people continued to search for witches, but they did it secretly. Because of the method of collective brainwashing from her, people remember the lady as the red-haired demon. Their appearance and age are also unknown to them, so Nilsi managed to hide her identity. But the girl was surprised that the assessment of the witch's power and the Holy See in the investigation report turned out to be fair. A guess popped into Nilsi's head, but Javier asked, "What is she doing here?" The girl did not understand why he was here. Fortunately, the witch found all the necessary information. Now she had to think of a way to deceive him. Nilsi smiled. And she just thought she forgot something here. That's why she came back here. And if the guy found the girl, they can come back. The fencer wonders what she forgot in the room. Javier closed the door unnoticed. Nilsi hesitated, but came up with an idea. Emily forgot her staff here. Brothers answer, "The staff took all the things." Nilsi retorted, "She forgot her wallet." Night. "He always has it." Nilsi apologized and promised to explain everything to the guy when they returned. She looked at Javier warily and asked him not to do this. The guy's face was somehow sad and detached. Once upon a time in the past, the boy had this expression on his face. That day, the girl had firmly decided to leave him and go on a journey on her own. Javier hugged the witch. He doesn't like it when she hides things from him. As I told the poor guy Emily, Nilsi found a common language with the girl in glasses. Have they met before? The witch does not know why he decided so. The guy has been waiting for the last 6 years for Nilsi to tell about his life and share his pain. That's why he insists on being by her side. The guy thinks that one day his sister will understand that Javier is the one she can fight shoulder to shoulder with. And what dangerous thing does she want to do now without saying anything? Javier gently took the girl by the chin, reminded her of how she once told him that no one could be near her. But let her listen to him now. No one in the world can live alone. Don't do everything alone, no matter what happens. Javier will always be on Nilsi's side. She is pleasantly surprised. So many years have passed, and the guy still remembers. She promised, no matter what obstacles there are on the way, they will overcome them together. But time goes by. No, it started from the moment she met Michaela again. Nilsi seemed to have turned into that witch again, who doesn't want to open her heart to anyone. Nilsi also thought that she could confess everything to the boy, but she was afraid that he would hate her if he found out the truth. Perhaps the girl should take a risk. And Javier held a magic book in his hands. The witch remembered the moment when she entered the room and saw a guy chained up. She had previously destroyed the lives of other people. She asked the swordsman, "Does he remember Tartarus? Who took him?" Javier remembers. It was their first meeting. The officer was hired by the Holy See to find children of suitable age to make warriors out of them. They used money to lure and subjugate the kingdom's mages, all for the implementation of his plan. This is what Michaela is doing now. The plan for eternal life. Javier looked at the lady with fear. She herself had once been like that. Rumors of immortality and witches had long been circulating in the kingdom. According to legend, at the beginning of all things, people who believed in the sun god were supposed to live forever. On that continent lived a group of evil witches. They had innate talents, fiery red hair, and charming appearance. They did not want to live like ordinary people. They wanted to become equal to God. The sun god despised them, because eternal life is given only to believers who preserve the world. The witches held a grudge against him, and under cover of night, they got the believers drunk, stealing the eternal life. And then they disappeared. Based on the worship of the sun god and hatred of witches, the Holy Throne was created. Once upon a time, he had more power than the royal family. But as time went on, alchemical magic and other technologies continued to improve. People gradually began to forget the legend. The power of the Holy See began to weaken. To regain the support of the nobles, they came up with the plan of eternal life. That year, a girl was born from the womb of a researcher of the Holy See. At 6 months, she could already speak, and she could read and write at 3 years old. She could run and jump, much earlier than other children. The girl had an unprecedented talent for magic. She used the highest magic without a staff or spells. Later, she named herself Nilsi Glure, but the people of the Holy See called her a witch. One day, she jumped out of the room and ran into a room where a young man was chained to a chair. The girl came up to him and asked how he was feeling. How terrible she felt. Every time she looked at the poor guy, it was as if goosebumps ran down her skin. After Nilsi turned 14, the Holy See gradually began to allow her to participate in the Immortality Project research. The first partner, too, was a silent paladin. The magic bug destroyed his vocal cords, and he sometimes made a couple of sounds. No one knew or wanted to know what he was thinking. Nilsi tried to communicate with him before the new experience, and suggested that he write down what he was thinking about voicing. Now she'll just look at what she can. And she showed her palm. She just didn't bring any paper or pen with her. She asks the guy to write here with his fingers, and Nilsi will try to guess. Even though the girl had never done this before, it was worth a try. Didn't he think it was terribly interesting? Paladin reached out and began to draw something. "She's very noisy," the boy wrote. Nilsi just laughed. He will have to endure. For Nilsi, the guy became not only a test subject, but also the first companion. Unfortunately. One day, the girl noticed that the paladin had adapted and suggested increasing the dosage of the medicine. The unfortunate man's face expressed fear. The girl warned him about possible pain. Nilsi picked up the syringe. No one taught her what it meant to protect someone. Witch's blood. Legend has it that it contains the power of eternal life. Just a few drops can significantly increase the limits of the human body. Thanks to this method, magicians overcome barriers and also increase the source of magic. It helps warriors to strengthen the body and increase combat power. When Nilsi grew up, the Holy See began to use her body as a vessel. They pumped her with various herbs and potions to improve the witch's blood. At 14, the girl took part in this experiment and achieved significant results. After that, the Holy See transformed the Holy Knights into death warriors. They became the most powerful organization, standing above the royal army. The blood of the witch ensured their rapid growth and prosperity, but it came at a high price. A book was thrown in Nilsi's face. They shouted at the girl, "Has she gone crazy? Doesn't she hear the soldiers' screams?" A lot of people died from her experiments due to blood rejection. Nilsi tried to protect a male professor from an aggressive woman. He pointed out to her the survivors. They became living corpses. Does the girl have a drop of humanity? According to Nilsi, this is a necessary sacrifice. Thanks to these people, the power of the Holy See has expanded. They need more space to demonstrate their own ambitions. Victims are inevitable, but we must make use of their deaths. Only in this way can they live up to expectations. The opponent refuted. For him, they were living people. not expendable material. A person is born with rights and dignity. No one should be sacrificed. The girl was taken away then. The professor stood next to her. He asked her not to take Helen's words to heart. She had been under a lot of pressure lately. Nilsi doesn't understand why he calls her that. The girl listed the names: Helen, Ellie, Carl, Alexander. Everyone has a name, and why is she the only one who doesn't have one? The professor didn't know how to get out of it now. He answered, "The girl is special. Special people don't need names." But for Nilsi, this was a lie. He had said otherwise before. Before these events, the professor had spoken to one of the scientists. He had spoken about the need to give the ward a name. Every time they have to address the girl as "hey" or "witch." Doesn't the professor think that this is awkward? He is adamant. Let him not think about it. The comrade is new here and doesn't understand everything. If you give the girl a name, she will begin to feel affection for him. When the time comes to kill her, it will no longer be possible to do so. Pictures of the past arose in the witch's mind. When Nilsi went out for a walk in the garden, she saw a silent paladin wandering around the clearing. She came up to him, said hello, and asked about his health. "Is everything okay? Does it hurt anywhere?" She extended 2 palms to him and offered to write down what the boy could say. The paladin showed his hands. She understood. He could no longer answer. And it was Nilsi's own fault. The witch was to blame for what had happened. That year, the girl turned 14. 3 years and 6 months remained before she would betray the Holy See. Since then, Nilsi has been planning an escape plan from the Holy See. And at the same time, she met Michaela. For some reason, she can't remember the witch now. The latter is afraid that she will never forget the empty eyes of that man. Nilsi finally copied the list of employees and the report on the investigation of the witch. She offers Javier, "Get out of here quickly before the magical minister wakes up." What was his name? The young swordsman asks the man's name. Nilsi hesitated and couldn't answer. She hadn't told him about time travel yet. And she hadn't mentioned his name. So Javier doesn't know it's him. How can the witch explain it in a language her brother can understand? And what was his name? The boy suggests forgetting about it if the girl doesn't want to talk, but one day he will find out anyway. Embarrassed, Nilsi hopes the guy doesn't think she's cruel. He doesn't understand. Why? The Holy See is to blame for everything, not her. There's no reason to hate her. Even if the victim was Javier himself, he wouldn't hold a grudge against her. Nilsi's eyes widened in surprise. Does she remember? Since she decided to atone for her sins, how many days had she spent alone? Javier and Nilsi stood at the open door. The guy reminded her, he is now the lady's partner, with whom she can come up with solutions to problems and talk about her own experiences. The boy asked his sister, "Does she think there are bad people in the Ministry of Magic?" The answer is yes. That's why Nilsi wants to know more about the people who surround Michaela. There may be a spy among them, and she is no longer alone. Soon, Nilsi's friend came to her. She apologized for getting completely drunk because she wanted to organize a welcoming party. The witch asks Simon calm down and don't shout so loudly. Michaela leaned against the bed. She felt sick. Nilsi offered the unfortunate woman to take a day off, but she refused because soon the others would be here. As the Minister of Magic, she could not miss work. Nilsi's first day at the Ministry of Magic. Since they are now colleagues, she asks Simon to take her to a meeting with these people. Nilsi, Michaela, and Emily were walking down the corridor. The latter yawned. She was so sleepy. Even though she hadn't had anything to drink all night, it was still hard to wake up. The witch was ironic. The student was so young, but she spoke like an old woman. Emily disagrees. She is not as young and beautiful as her mentor. The girl noticed an earring in Nilsi's ear, although she had never seen it before. Where did it come from? Did some handsome guy give it to her? Oh, that? Nilsi was embarrassed again. She turned to Javier and promised him to take Emily with him tomorrow. The boy also had to attend classes, but if he continued to follow his sister around, people would start to suspect something. Gave one earring to Javier, kept the other one for herself. Nilsi used magic on them, so it will be possible to communicate through them. Explained that she bought this jewelry yesterday at the market. Emily was also bored. Simon calmed her down. According to Michaela, her colleagues often comment on her clothes as too simple. and the girl would like to be as fashionable as Lady Nilsi. The student does not understand because she is the Minister of Magic. Colleagues should treat her with respect after creating many devices. Seaman denies. It's not like that. They all worked on these devices, but the creator was announced as Michaela. She opened the door to the room. She hopes the guests won't be disappointed when they see it. Screams were coming from there. A guy was yelling about not wanting to waste any more time on a girl. Her response. Does he think he's the boss? What kind of tone is that? Oh yeah, that's the tone of the mage department with the lowest weapon enchantment rates. The guy asked a question. Did his words hurt the disputant? They can survive only by relying on other departments and ask the lady not to pretend to be the boss. If he is ready for a fight, she can accept the challenge at any time. Let her not cry later. Michaela asked her colleagues to calm down, as she wanted to introduce the newcomers. They ignored her. Finally, Seaman firmly demanded that they stop. Will they achieve any results with constant quarrels? Nilsi watched this closely. Michaela, who had always been submissive, was able to express her displeasure. It seemed that these disputants had won the girl's trust. The magic minister turned to the guests and asked for their forgiveness for this mess. In fact, these two get along very well. Is she sure? The boy and the girl looked at each other angrily. This blue-haired guy. He is the head of the main division of the Ministry of Magic. His name is Gale, theorist of the Imperial Magic Academy. There is no information about his parents, but he is clearly of aristocratic origin. The girl's name is Reina. She is the head of the Weapon Enchantment Department, a fighter who is on the border. She came here after losing her position due to a conflict with her superiors. She was born into a civilian family. There is one more. This is the head of the Department of Magical Devices, Modiri, one of the first persons of Illuminati Heimdoll, a hard-working man who rose from the very bottom. It was Modiri who served the guests tea. Emily thanked him tenderly. She admired the guy's appearance. She thought he was handsome. He was from the East? Nilsi wondered why he didn't make any sounds when he walked. The witch heard Javier calling her through her earring. He was interested in the group's affairs. She told him about a meeting with the heads of 3 departments. Nilsi can't say yet whether they are normal or not. Based on his experience, Nilsi considers Gale, who was born in the Imperial City, to be the most suspicious of the 3. Reina has parted ways with the Legion. She does not rule out the possibility of making a joke about it. Modiri has the cleanest resume of them all. But there are things that worry Nilsi. Will these people be able to give the group anything useful? Oliver says that Michaela and these 3 make key decisions at the Ministry of Magic. Ordinary workers are not privy to such matters. Nilsi thought again of all 3 persons. She supposes that the spy is among these people. Michaela brought Nilsi to the Ministry of Magic library. Perhaps the witch would have a job there in the future. Emily, who was standing nearby, was surprised by the size of the room. There really were a lot of books there. Seaman is very sorry, but due to financial constraints, the ministry cannot approve a personal account for Nilsi. She assures everything is fine. The library will do as well. There are probably many research results left by the Holy See here. This place is better suited for Nilsi. Emily suggested that she go further with them. There are many places they haven't been. Nilsi asks them to leave, and she will collect some things here. The girls left, closing the door behind them. The witch began to deal with papers and books. As in the past life, these were harmless experimental reports. Without the witch's blood, they would hardly have explored anything valuable. Nilsi thought, stood up and went to the rows of books. Someone asked, "Is she looking for this?" And he stretched out a firm hand. The lady thanked. This is what is needed. But the next moment she screamed in fear, not expecting to see anyone here. It was Modiri. He asks not to make noise as he does not want to be noticed. He is simply shirking his work in the library. Nilsi calmed down and even smiled. That guy again. Why did he sneak up on her like that every time? On the table, he saw a paper with information about the sun god that the Holy Throne had collected. He asked, why was the guest suddenly interested in this ancient legend? Nilsi turned away. She just wanted to look. As a believer, she wants to know more about her god. Does the guy have any problems? Modiri apologized to the lady. He did not mean to hurt her feelings. As the girl could see, the guy is not from this country. There is a saying where he was born that says, "Man can defeat nature." Nilsi wants to know, is Modiri trying to express his complete disinterest in religious matters? The guy appreciates the contribution of the Holy See, since they perform godly deeds in a mortal body. Faith is a mirror that reflects the unfulfilled hopes that people place on God. And they blame the witch for their own desires that they never dared to face. They used it as a consolation for the soul and salvation. Before the guys arrived, Modiri and Michaela conducted an experiment. The guy asked the interlocutor about her possible difficulties. Can he help? Nilsi didn't know. Was it sincere or was the guy testing the lady? Her question: eternal life and time. Which of these, according to the Illuminati, would be the best starting point? Modiri smiled. According to legend, immortality is considered a biological trait, inherent only to certain species. For example, witches. Therefore, the direction of the Holy See's research has always been to change the energy of the human body in order to make it strong and able to withstand the destructive influence of time. However, this idea turned out to be wrong. According to legend, a witch stole immortality from the sun god. Modiri asks to guess whether this story is not fiction and whether it really happened. After it had passed through many generations, it was greatly embellished and became a legend. Then what is called eternal life stolen from the sun god is time magic. The magic circle, according to Modiri, which they had previously seen in Michaela's room, also proved the consistency of their ideas. But if that's so, began the excited Nilsi, the project contains a hidden danger. The guy finished. If people could really control the flow of time, they would discover the path to eternal life. But at the moment, this is just a fantasy. In reality, time is one of the most mysterious and unexplored phenomena. The Luli cannot control it because it is beyond their capabilities. If this magic is used, irreparable chaos may occur. Nilsi does not rule it out. Modiri took Nilsi by the shoulder and spoke about the witch. She, who destroyed the Holy Throne, came from the future and changed the course of time. The lady opened her eyes wide in surprise. The interlocutor looked at her coldly. Nilsi didn't understand why Modiri was telling her this. Was this the Illuminati's thought, or was he testing the girl? But if it was true, then it wasn't just about the witch's personality, but also about time travel. Modiri spread his hands cheerfully. These are just his conjectures. If he were a time traveler, he would not kill people, but would act as a prophet, steal a lot of money, and walk off into the sunset. But it is precisely because of the limitless possibilities that magic is so fascinating, says Modiri. And Nilsi interested in joining the basic Ministry of Magic? The lady couldn't figure out. Was he normal or weird? Emily and Michaela burst into the room. The first one is worried about the teacher. Is she okay? Seeing the boys, the girls froze in place. Seaman's eyes widened in surprise. Her companion only laughed sarcastically. Michaela dragged Modiri along. He was slacking off again, threatening to cut his salary if he continued doing this. The guy laughed and asked Nilsi to think about his offer. They left. Emily wondered what the couple had been talking about. They were all alone, but Nilsi just kept sullenly silent. Then she told Javier what had happened. He asked again. She meant that Modiri had started talking about the Holy See, so he was a spy? Nilsi isn't sure yet. It's just that a lot of what the Illuminati said echoed too much with past events, which is why the girl felt suspicious of this guy. Javier was training at the time, but stood in the shadow of the column. And what did he think? In the fencer's opinion, this young man was the least suspicious, judging by his sister's story. If Javier were a spy, he would try his best to disguise himself and look like everyone else. And he would not mention the affairs of the Holy See and reveal his identity. And Modiri is very open about it. It is unlikely that he is a spy. Moreover, Nilsi and Modiri were there alone. If he wanted to do something, he would have done it at that moment. Javier understands. This is just his judgment, based on intuition. Otherwise, he'd better go with his sister. She laughs and asks him not to do that, because she's capable of defending herself. But if the guy is worried, they can communicate more often this way. Nilsi walked down the corridor. She had no doubts about her ability to defend herself. Even when the witch stood alone against the entire holy sea, no one could defeat her. The lady remembered that, but she couldn't shake the strange feeling, as if something bad was going to happen. In the library, Nilsi saw a girl she didn't know. She asked fearfully about Minister McKella. Is she here? Nilsi apologized with a smile. She was new, and who was the guest? She introduced herself. Erin from the Weapons Enchantment Department. An address was left at the door of her classroom. McKella had a letter, so the girl decided to bring it here. Erin held a small bottle of star grape seeds in her hand. It came with the letter. She was told it was an order from the minister. This was strange for Nilsi. They don't have a shortage of such seeds. Is this some rare species? Erin began to open the vial. Nilsi thought of star seeds that smelled like blood. She shouted at the girl to drop the vial immediately. But then long vines of grapes appeared. The plant began to twine around the two girls. The jester from the earring heard Javier. He abandoned his studies and rushed to his sister. The sparring partners were surprised by his escape. The branches of the grapes had already broken through the broken roof of the house. Nilsi and Erin sat in the room, hugging each other in hope of survival. The vines, saturated with scarlet blood, wrapped around the young witch's arm. She looked at the creepy plant with fear. Emily, McKella, and Raina were already rushing to the two victims. They wanted to make sure they were okay, but the passage had collapsed. They couldn't get through here. Nilsi remembered Modiri. Damn it. Was he not acting alone? She had to think of something. Nilsi waved her hand, summoning magic. Erin felt fear. The witch remembered a moment from the past when little Javier asked to save him, mentally asked the guy to calm down. If she has to use magic, then Erin might get hurt. But then the vine will run away. Suddenly, Javier himself burst into the room with a wooden sword. Nilsi, Javier. The boys were happy to see each other. She asks him to quickly catch up with the grape branches. They stole the girl's blood. The guy turned around and jumped out through the broken window. Raina is racing after him. She asks McKella to take care of these two. Emily came to Nilsi and Erin. Are they okay? McKella was already calming her subordinate with a letter. The witch noticed this. No, she was wrong. Javier was racing through the forest thicket. For him, the plant looked like a vine. It was very similar to the star vine from their house. Nilsi once told him that a blood-grown star vine listens to its owner. It was true. It ran away from the guy, as if the branch was controlled by someone. But the next moment, with a deft blow, Javier cut one of the branches. This was the first time that his sister had asked the boy for something so sincerely. Raina ran behind and asked the boy to stop. The vines began to go over the cliff. The girl shouted for this to Javier, but he did not hear her. The guy slipped on the edge of the abyss and began to fall down. McKella rushed along the long corridor and ran into Nilsi's office. She found a way. The witch only looked at the newcomer with a tired look. She said, there were studies indicating the ability to reduce body temperature to slow down the progression of wounds. And if we proceed from this aspect, Nilsi interrupted her. It is useless. I have already tried. This method will only slow down the approach of death. It will not prolong life. McKella speaks for improvement. She asks to look at the new research. The witch cries tiredly, this won't work. She asks McKella to let her figure it out herself. The girl only hinders her in this. Emily also came to them. It was the first time she had seen such sudden mood swings in the teacher. Whether facing a pack of demonic wolves or a siege by Heimdoll's Illuminati, Nilsi has always remained calm. But why is she so scared? Is there something special about the girl's blood? Emily was about to say something to the teacher when McKella interrupted her. She had suspected since Nilsi joined the Ministry of Magic that she was hiding some information. Many wizards have an unknown past. That's why McKella didn't want to get involved in her affairs. But what happened now has affected the girl herself directly. She can't ignore it. Emily thinks the same way. They both wanted to help the teacher. Nilsi just looked at them. She remembered how people used to chase her and call her a witch. That woman in the house screamed that she would not allow harm to come to innocents. Like Nilsi once killed her son. Why can't she cope alone? It doesn't matter. But you can't bear everything alone. That's what Javier told her. The witch told the girls about a possible serious catastrophe that was coming. and Nilsi wants to ask them to do her a favor. And 3 days later, the group searched the forest for the missing Javier. People walked with torches and asked the guy to respond. Gale is sure that if he died, they would have found his body. Reina asks her friend not to say such things. If the young swordsman dies, Michaela will blame herself. Gale sits down under a tree, but Javier decided so himself. If you jump from this height, you can die or become disabled. And if he did survive, where could the cripple run? The guy thinks that the unfortunate one has already been carried away by wild animals. Gale screamed in pain. The vines began to twine around him. The magician is surprised by their appearance in such a place, asks Reina to lend her sword. But her friend was standing nearby and looking strangely at her right hand. Her flashlight was lying on the ground, broken and burning. The warrior's mouth and palm were bloody. Michaela stood alone in the library and recalled the teacher's unpleasant words. Her parents' reproaches, calling the girl a talentless nobody, came to mind. How could such a useless creature appear in their family? Michaela was picking up the scattered sheets of paper and wiping away her tears. She decided to try again. It would be great if she could help the teacher. And suddenly she noticed a syringe with blood on the table. Michaela found out. This is the blood of a witch. A kind of talent that allows ordinary people to increase their abilities and become on the same level as real geniuses. This is Pandora's box. Nilsi walked down the corridor and thought about her conversation with Michaela. Had she gone too far? She opened the door to the room. Perhaps the girl was here. She had to apologize to her. The sight she saw shocked the witch. Bloody Michaela looked at Nilsi. Now she won't be a burden to the teacher? The girl coughed and sat up in bed. Her head and body ached. It felt like her blood was boiling. From the sounds outside, the situation was only getting worse. The girl's legs were tied by the vines and she collapsed on the floor. She could guess that this was all because of the sudden appearance of these branches. The girl must notify the minister. She tried to crawl, but soon went quiet. An unknown person approached the body. Oh, this one didn't cope either? She scribbles another name in her notebook. The stranger is nervous. She constantly changes the dosage, but still can't create even one successful specimen. The test subjects died. And if you can't achieve the desired result, then what is it for? She opened the door and entered the large hall. Michaela was standing there. But what was she doing here? The latter turned around angrily. She should be the one asking the newcomer such a question. The girl is supposedly happy to see the minister here safe and sound. She asks, "How is she feeling? Does she feel a surge of strength?" Oh, that's so good. The girl with the unhealthy face is happy. Michaela pushed the girl's hand away. Her name is Hein. Seaman asks her not to pretend. Everyone here has been struck by an unknown disease, and she is the only one who has not been affected. But Michaela, I am ready to listen to the guest's justification. Heine doesn't understand what she's talking about. She was just wondering who was lucky enough to survive. The minister is angry. Lucky? The girl walked past so many people and didn't help anyone? What for? The attack on Nilsi. The poisoning by a member of the Ministry of Magic. Hein did it? She grinned maliciously. And what would Michaela do to her? The latter was instantly enveloped in vines. Says she attacked Nilsi? Hein asks her interlocutor not to be deceived. After all, the witch killed people. Michaela didn't think about it? Why did a sorceress with such talent come to them in order to start everything from scratch? Michaela reminded about the Illuminati Heimdoll's policy of not rejecting people with ideals. Hein gets angry and calls her interlocutor stupid. After all, power decides everything in this world. The strong must have motives to give in to the weak. Nilsi herself entered the room. She addressed the villainess. If she had forgotten her name, the lady was ready to introduce herself again, and she gave her own name if her rival did not remember. Hein looked at Nilsi with an aggressive face and was silent. And she smiled. It doesn't matter. The dead can't talk. Nilsi suddenly delivered a magical blow under the villainess's feet. Is she serious now? She was amazed. Nilsi wants to know who told Hein about the witch's blood? And how many people did she kill and for what purpose? The villainess covered herself with Michaela and spoke. People like them, who had everything from birth, will not understand the pain of ordinary people. In order to gain the opportunity to study, Hain became a pawn of the powerful. She worked day and night to win the favor of natural geniuses. She gave up everything, but she never overcame this gap. Nilsi appeared. Perhaps this is the only chance for Hane to change her own fate. The witch demanded that the villain let Michaela go. The villain holds a syringe in her hands and consoles. This is the last drop of blood. Hane smiles and promises not to waste such a precious thing on Michaela. Let the girl wish her luck. Bloody Michaela asked Nilsi for forgiveness. She had let her down again. She was coughing up blood. The witch asked the girl to hold on a little longer and not die. She confessed. She had long ago realized that the teacher had chosen the wrong person. Michaela just couldn't accept it. There are great geniuses in this world, but why? Emily and Rum were watching Hane and her captive from above in the hall. Why isn't she like them? Hane cried out with a syringe in her vein. The boys jumped down and knocked the syringe out of the villain's hands. The weapon quickly passed to Michaela. Hane asks to return it to her. Nilsi does not understand why her star vine listens to the enemy. The branches embraced their mistress too. Before all this, Nilsi asked Rum and Emily for a favor. Something serious could happen soon. The girl clarified. She was talking about the attack that happened today. Javier hasn't returned yet. Maybe he brought the suspect with him. Nilsi replied. Javier won't be back. She just contacted him. The guy got hurt jumping off a cliff, but don't worry, he'll be able to patch himself up. And everyone will be told he's missing. Under the pretext of searching for Javier, they will send people to look for him nearby. This will keep Nilsi's blood safe from Heimdoll's Illuminati. Michaela asks a question. So, Nilsi was attacked by one of the inner members. That's right. And the ice already has a suspect. But that time, when she was attacked, the girl dealt with it on her own. That person prevented her from using magic, causing the vines to escape. If this someone can't leave here, he will have to implement his own plan inside. Nilsi asks Michaela to prepare some serum for her. It may harm the members of the magic department, but there is no other way. Michaela will do everything the teacher orders, but the girl asks the lady to explain what is going on here. Why is the criminal so eager to take her blood? That is exactly what she intends to talk about. Whatever the girls think when they hear this, remember, their job is to solve the current problem. Nilsi has revealed herself. She is the witch everyone is looking for. Han demanded the syringe back. Did Michaela hear what Nilsi just said? She is a witch, an opponent of Heimdoll's Illuminati. Hani calls herself Michaela's ally, and again asks for the syringe. A guy with a covered face suddenly appeared, put a knife to the villainess's throat, and demands that she shut up. According to him, she had already wounded his sister and forced her to reveal her identity. This is enough to kill Hane. The guy called himself angry at the moment, so the detainee had better not run into trouble. Michaela noticed that the guy turned his gaze to her. Nilsi asks Javier to let the villain go. The brother listened and stepped back. The witch turned to Michaela. She must understand what the weapon in her hands is capable of. The girl had been asking herself the question all this time. On the day she killed that man, was it the witch's blood or her own arrogance that made Nilsi think she was different? So this time, the lady wants Michaela to talk to the detainee. Nilsi wants to know. In the villain's place, Michaela risked everything she had for a tiny hope. The girl looked at the teacher with a frightened and embarrassed look. Han believes that this world is unfair in its essence, but she wants to correct this reality and give Michaela a chance. What's wrong with that? She begged for the syringe with blood to be returned to her, and if Michaela were in her place, she would have done the same. But the girl answered differently. She can't do it. Her abilities are really at the level of a villain. Although the girl is the Minister of Magic, she has no achievements. Thinking about it every night, Michaela realizes that she actually feels inferior. For a moment, the little girl was shocked when she learned from Nilsi about the effectiveness of witch's blood. But she loves and respects her colleagues. And she likes this job, as well as the sense of accomplishment that comes after solving a difficult task. Michaela dropped to one knee in front of Hane. The Minister of Magic doesn't want to risk her own life for this tiny hope, and she doesn't want Hane to hurt herself because of it. Michaela's greatest fear is giving up and stopping improving in life. The girl is also afraid that she will never be able to do academic research. Hane is angry and does not understand the meaning of her colleague's beautiful words. After all, she knows better what this leads to. No matter how hard he tries, everything will be in vain. But Michaela still believes in the existence of things in this world that she can do. And the villainess looked at the girl with some sadness and regret. Michaela hugged her recent opponent. She reassured her about the boys. They were fine. Nilsi injected them with a serum, and they would wake up soon. And if Hain repents, she will get a chance to make amends. Hain thinks she can't come back. She suddenly sighed. Emily doesn't understand what happened? Javier allowed the tip of the needle to touch the villainess's body. Nilsi calmed everyone down. Hain only got a small part of the dose, but it is not fatal. But the magic circuit in Hain's body is broken. In the future, she will not be able to cast spells anymore. She looked at the palm of her hand in blood. She understands. This was to be expected. They left, and the brother and his sister remained in the room. He asked the girl not to feel sorry for Hain. He knows about the witch's sentimentality, but the villain still hurt others and herself. Therefore, the motives of the arrested woman are not important. Javier thinks Hane is to blame for what happened, and it has nothing to do with Nilsi. The girl agrees with her brother. If the villain is not capable of this, then it would be better to pass the baton to future generations, to Nilsi, but her position is what gives her a better understanding of what it's like. True, when some people can't bridge the talent gap, but if human contribution was so insignificant, would humans have been able to achieve such success in various fields? Perhaps the idea of a teacher in a village was the beginning of a new discovery. Scientists of a different generation would have developed it. For one reason or another, they failed to achieve something. But someday in the future, it may prove useful to the next generation. Any contribution, even the smallest, risks turning into something beautiful. Nilsi turned to Hane. Her efforts are not in vain. The world is woven from a multitude of ideas that were invented by people of unknown origin. Michaela wiped Raina's face with a napkin as she lay on the bed. The first one is worried about the boys. Will they be okay? According to Javier, Nilsi talked about taking the serum beforehand. In this case, the witch's blood will not harm the body. But there will be side effects. They will appear in a few days. Michaela turned around and saw Emily hugging the grapevine. The girl introduced the plant. It was Wenti. After Javier jumped off the cliff, Wenti found him and brought him here. The vine was ordered to get into the rooms of the people Hain wanted to attack. Wenti injected everyone with a large amount of serum before the villain used the witch's blood on them. He is the main character of this story. Hain was apprehended, there were no casualties. Emily is happy with this happy ending. It looks like it's really over, thought Javier. Except, the guy demanded that everyone present go with him. The guys went into another room. The fencer closed the door behind everyone. He wonders what they are planning to do next. The guys don't understand, but the guy asks them not to pretend to be idiots. The conversation will be about the witch. Rum looked at Emily. He is not surprised. The witch seemed different from the others to him. Emily recalled her origins in a small village. Sometimes she heard mentions of a witch after dinner. And instead of believing rumors, the girl was going to trust her eyes. A teacher is a teacher. And Emily won't change her attitude towards her because of that. And if Michaela starts informing on Nilsi, then both girls will be enemies. The surprised magical minister assured that she had no such thoughts. But if they leave everything as it is, will the tragedy of the Holy See be repeated? Javier wanted to pull his sword out of its sheath, but Rum calmed him down. The swordsman turned to Michaela. Has she forgotten anything? He recalled Nilsi's confession, despite all possible consequences. This speaks of her desire to care more about innocent people than about her own safety. The girl was not involved in the incident. If Nilsi intends to harm Heimdoll's Illuminati, then Michaela is required to remain silent and let the girl do whatever she wants. The guy reminded them how his sister saved their lives. They all surrounded the unfortunate Michaela and accused her of doubting the teacher's motives and called her ungrateful. The girl knelt down and asked the boys for forgiveness. She had already understood everything. Michaela promises to continue to care for other people. She backed up to the door and disappeared behind it. Javier asked Rum, "Is he sure that the one who ran away is not pretending?" Emily allowed the girl to deceive her. Rum asks to trust him. He is good at understanding people. He thinks that Michaela just needs a reason to trust Nilsi. Nilsi opened the thick doors and stood on the threshold of the house, behind which stretched a garden. Madiri called her. The magician thought the girl would interrogate him first. The lady wonders. Mudiri told Hain about the witch's identity and the abilities of the witch's blood. But how did he know about it? If the interlocutor says that he guessed, will Nilsi believe him? The girl is sure that if the authorities knew her identity, they would have done something long ago. And the lady's intuition tells her that Mudiri is not in league with them. Who is he? The guy smiles. He agrees. And before we begin the story, the young man tore off his beautiful black hair. And in front of Nilsi stood a beautiful lady with red curls in a luxurious dress. She was ready to introduce herself to Nilsi, who looked at it all in amazement. The redhead is very happy to be in her own body. Nilsi recognized her. It's the Scarlet Witch. Does she know her? In fact, these two are more than just acquaintances. Morgana is a first-generation witch. She is the first person in history to be officially called a witch and the donor of Nilsi's genes. Ethically, she is her mother. And in the novel, Morgana is just a name that appears between the lines. She was supposed to die at the hands of the Holy See. According to Nilsi, if a witch was being persecuted by the sea, she should know about the dangers of restarting the eternal life plan. Why did Morgana deliberately reveal Nilsi's identity and incite Hain to such dangerous actions? She knew that all this would lead to the death of many people. But Scarlet didn't care at all. Morgana hates all scientists, and it would be great if they all died. The so-called truth based on the self-sacrifice of others. Scarlet Witch has heard of their deeds. She is surprised that Nilsi is still willing to protect them. But since Morgana failed, she will not continue to do so. Aloy, unlike her colleague, does not have such a strong will. Nilsi believes that witches must be incredibly strong. Morgana calls herself a woman who looks like one and has special abilities. What distinguishes her from other people is her prophetic dreams. Morgana was born in one of the countless small villages of this kingdom. The people here are simple, enthusiastic, and extremely ignorant. The girl does not know when she began to have such dreams. Scenes began to come true periodically. One day she wanted to eat rice with mushrooms in the evening and got it. Morgana used this as a way to brighten up her own life a little, but the girl didn't think that this would be the cause of her collapse. Groups of ignorant children. Pointless arguments. In the heat of the moment, she told a story from her own dream. Then Morgana predicted to one of the boys that his house would catch fire, and as a result, he would die. And then it became reality. The villagers began to accuse the girl of cursing and killing that child. Morgana was then less than 10 years old. She was so intimidated that she could not even defend herself verbally. The unfortunate girl was already being dragged to the stake, but she was taken away by the Holy See, which was passing by at the time. But it was not salvation at all, but a transition from one nightmare to another. There, the little girl learned to use her own abilities and also understood that dreams were not ordinary. Morgana was like a useless animal, crushed and abandoned. This was her end. Fear completely consumed the unfortunate prisoner. She was ready to pay any price to resolve the dangerous situation. Over the next 10 years, Morgana plotted her escape, seduced the researcher, and begged him to take her away. But all attempts failed. Prophetic dreams spoke of the girl's failure. Until one day, one of the employees ran up to her cell and demanded that she run away. He was in a panic. A real witch had appeared. This was the girl's only chance. Thus, the fate of the unfortunate prisoner changed for the better. Everything around was burning, and people's souls were rushing back and forth. Morgana's dreams never came true. So she thought, maybe something different appeared in this world. Something that changed the girl's fate. Does Nilsi know that this world has its own purpose? No matter what they do, it is impossible to change the ending. And Nilsi is the only variable here. Morgana does not want to go back to prison. So even without good intentions, Morgana still has to be a good person. She warns others about potential problems. Nilsi is surprised. Has she heard of the grandmother paradox? When you travel in time and kill your ancestor, you destroy your own self. Morgana congratulated Nilsi. She uncovered the conspiracy of the Holy See twice. She was able to save countless people from this inhuman experiment. Has Nilsi ever thought about it? If the eternal life plan is stopped, the witch will not be created. You can make a time jump to stop this. Who could it be? Nilsi and her friends were riding in a carriage past the village fields where the peasants were working. They looked at the carriage in surprise. Rum got out. He was glad to have arrived home. The villagers were also feeling good. The boy ran towards the people who had run past him, and the people hugged Javier. He had finally returned. The peasants praised the mallet they had once ordered from the boy and asked him to look at the broken water pipe. One of the girls wondered how things were in the city. Rum is upset. Emily asks, "Did his expectations not match reality?" Answer 6. You always need to hope for something. Nilsi got out of the carriage. People were delighted by her beauty. Someone had seen her for the first time in 6 years. Was she cured of her illness? The peasants did not even know if they would be able to get along with the girl. A little boy approached her. The villagers were pleased. Colin liked the beauty. The child raised his hands to the guest. The people were a little embarrassed and looked at this picture timidly. The boy was embarrassed too. He was picked up by Javier. The people misunderstood, he said. There is protective magic on his sister's clothes. It would be bad if the baby got hurt. Nilsi agrees with this completely. The villagers calmed down. That's how it is. They consider Sister Javier a good person. The lady is glad of help from her brother. As she expected, she still can't get along with others. Looking back, Emily and Rum, or when the girl left the village and met Michaela and the others. Javier is the reason the girl has a connection with the people of this world. If she hadn't met him, then... Nilsi's thoughts were interrupted by a woman she didn't know. She is Colin's mother and asks for forgiveness for the child. The lady reassures the peasant woman. Everything is fine. The woman inquires about the guest's condition. Can she go for walks now? Nilsi is able to do so. The woman is happy and suggests celebrating such wonderful news by inviting the lady to dinner with them. An older man came up. Oh, how clever Madame Scott is. He also wants to invite Lady Nilsi to visit. The woman does not agree. The peasant still has a long way to go to reach her level. The third woman suggested that everyone get together for a party in honor of the guest's recovery. The idea was supported. The woman who proposed it asks Nilsi to install a washing machine in her house. Madame Scott criticizes her friend because the guest has just recovered. How can she have the audacity to ask for this? Nilsi waves her hands. It doesn't really take that long. And again she stands with Morgana. According to the latter, her colleague has prevented the eternal life plan too many times. And she shouldn't exist. Therefore, the world will soon erase the existence of Nilsi's I. Neither her body nor her name will remain. She will disappear as if the girl had never existed in the world. The only ones who will remember her are the children, with whom Nilsi has a strong connection, and no one else will remember the girl. The unfortunate one asks, how much time does she have left? Morgana did not expect such a calm reaction from her opponent. Morgana thought about it. She had a lot of calculations. At best, she only had 3 days. That's all. Nilsi looked at her fellow witch with a doomed smile. Peasant women were washing vegetables and berries on the riverbank. Javier looked at the baskets of food standing nearby and doubted that they would eat it. According to Rum, half would be given to the Illuminati as a token of gratitude for establishing teleportation. The boy asked his friend if he wanted to join Heimdoll. After all, if he continued his studies, Javier would be helped to become a knight there in the future. He wanted to be one. Javier doesn't mind, but he doesn't want to get too close to them. The guy wants to keep Nilsi's secret. The closer she is to the center of power, the more likely it is that her secret will be revealed. The guy is confident in his ability to protect the girl, no matter what, but there is mental pain caused by suspicions, accusations, and betrayal, left an indelible mark on the girl's heart. Even if it's a 1 in a million chance, Javier won't go to Heimdoll's Illuminati. He has to stay with Nilsi. That's a good reason to refuse. Rum is thoughtful. Okay, but when he said that, Emily thinks men are so easily influenced by emotions. She to Javier. Didn't the teacher tell him that she didn't like his intention to give up his future for her sake? Javier doesn't think that if he constantly makes such decisions, he will lose his own I? The guy thinks that there is some truth in the girl's words. But they are all different. Not everyone in this life pursues fame and success. Being able to stay close to my sister and protect her is me, Javier. What sister? Emily screamed at the top of her lungs. The guy then walked through the village. Yes, his girlfriend screamed loudly. And what's wrong with his attitude towards Nilsi? He went into the forge where Nilsi was working with metal. The female master asks not to overdo it with force because pushing can cause breakage. It is necessary to do everything quickly, before the alloy cools down. The guy was surprised that his sister was here. She was happy to see him. She gave him a sword and offered to try it. Javier doesn't understand anything, but Nilsi encourages him not to ask questions, but just try it. Javier easily cut through the wooden stick. The girl realized the whole thing is still unbalanced. She was sure the guy would be laughed at if he used such a sword. She had to try again. Javier is surprised. She made a weapon for him? Answer: of course. Nilsi wonders, does he still use a regular iron sword? The girl will add some magical protection to him. She will do it herself. She held 2 stones in her hands. But Nilsi wasn't good at blacksmithing at all. Why was it so difficult? Javier suddenly called her and confessed. He wanted to be with the girl. As long as she was around, he didn't need anything. In the evening, all the residents gathered for a party in honor of Nilsi's recovery. She watched it all silently. There were many people and delicious food everywhere. Mummin asked, wasn't the girl going to put up a desperate fight? Or run away, find a quiet corner, and die alone? That's what he would do himself. Nilsi knew he'd hit the mark. The girl thought about it, but later regretted her own decision. If she just left quietly, it would upset her loved ones and leave a feeling of sadness for the rest of her life. Nilsi admitted that it would be very painful for the boys at first. But it's better to see it with your own eyes than to guess whether she's alive or not. And Javier is a strong child. After a while, the guy will be able to let his sister go. Then the guy will start living his life. He will do what Nilsi herself could not. The girl hopes, at least, that Javier will do it for her. Suddenly, he runs up to her. Soon there will be a dance. Does he want to join them? He immediately became embarrassed and tried to correct it. Would Nilsi like to dance with Javier? The girl thanked the young fencer. After all, with his help, she had not been alone for the last 6 years. Oddly enough, the witch who betrayed everyone actually dreamed of living her life as an ordinary person. Picnics, communication with loved ones, books, joys. Suddenly, Nilsi collapsed on the floor, causing fear in Javier. He tried to catch her hand, but he couldn't. Nilsi lay lifeless. Everyone rushed to her, and only her brother stood and silently watched what was happening. Rum turns to the teacher. Is she feeling unwell? Emily screams for a doctor. There is a call to take the victim to a doctor. Javier asks not to touch his sister. Emily is indignant. They are wasting time. And what kind of nonsense is he talking? Can he see? Nilsi needs help. Magic sparks appeared near the girl. The guys are horrified by what they saw. Javier again asks not to touch Nilsi. The weather changed outside. A strong wind began to blow. Nilsi was lying in bed, and next to her was Javier. He was trying to hold his beloved sister's hand. In the courtyard of Rum, Emily spoke as her brother healed the girl with a spell, but it is absolutely useless. The girl's body began to gradually dissipate, and there is almost no pulse. Emily is terrified. She does not understand what to do. She remembered that Rum always has solutions, so let him come up with something. Rum is at a loss. Is she serious? After all, Nilsi is a witch. Could the guy really do what the sorceress couldn't? After all, even she herself was at a loss. What should he come up with? Except, a thought occurred to Rum. Emily looked at him worriedly. What happened? They say that no one in the village remembers the events that happened yesterday? Rum clarified. People did not remember Nilsi herself, and it's strange. Rum told people about yesterday's celebration in honor of Nilsi's recovery, but the peasants didn't remember anything. The guys were worried about the fate of Javier. Will he be alone? Rum had a premonition that they had entered an area where ordinary people should not go. Maybe doing nothing now was the best solution. The boy was sure the teacher would say the same. Javier quietly approached the boys. He muttered about some disagreement. Rum asks where the swordsman is going. According to him, Nilsi took him, turning him into a person who cannot live without her. She can't just leave Javier. Rum asks his friend to come to his senses. What should he do? Javier doesn't understand. Rum suggests just sitting down and thinking. He asks if Javier knows anyone he can ask for help, and does he know what exactly is happening to Nilsi? There is no need to make hasty decisions. The guy does not know anything, but he understands only one thing. If this continues, he will lose his sister. Unhappy Javier got down on his knees. He doesn't know what to do now and asks for help. The boys looked at him sadly. A female voice asks to beg him while the boy is in this position. It was Morgana. The Trinity didn't know her yet. They were wondering who it was. The witch jumped down. She was sitting on a tree. Morgana winked at the boys. Do they need help? Javier held Nilsi in his hands in the center of the magical symbol. Emily, Rum, and Morgana were on the edges. The witch called the girl. She remembered her, that student, right? Let her come. Morgana touched Emily's forehead and a magical beam appeared, which reached Nilsi's hands. They began to regain their original appearance. The guys were happy about this. According to the witch, this will only temporarily stop the process. Morgana won't be verbose. Nilsi is a person who shouldn't exist in this world. The only thing the sorceress can do is strengthen the bond between her friends and the teacher. Among them, the strongest connection is with... Morgana looked at Javier. She asked his name. The witch wants to attach an anchor to the guy, thanks to which Nilsi will be able to find his way back. This means that his life with her will be linked to one. If Nilsi completely disappears, then even the witch does not know what will happen to the guy. Javier is important to know. Did she offer his sister this before? Morgana offered, but Nilsi rejected it and trapped her. After the magical trap disappeared, Morgana ran here with all her might. The witch realized Javier is important to Nilsi. She would rather disappear than protect her own existence. Javier wants to know, when will his little sister wake up? Morgana has no idea. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in 10 or 20 years. Perhaps until Javier grows old, the world will not be able to accept Nilsi. Despite this, the boy is ready to wait. He admitted, time does not matter. From the day the boy first met the girl, he decided. Nilsi woke up in a blooming meadow. It was a night with many stars. She asked Mummin where she was. He answered, deep inside himself. All the girl's memories are hidden here. Everything she wants to remember and everything she wants to forget is here. There were a lot of mirrors in front of Nilsi. The girl would have thought about studying the past of that Nilsi before. But now her story is over, and it's time to go home. She should be here. The girl meant the real her, the one she was before she got into this novel. Maybe she has a happy family, or not a very good relationship with her parents. And tomorrow she will go to school and make normal friends. Perhaps the girl will even have conflicts with teachers because of her studies. Like all normal girls, she will have problems. She is just a reader, not a witch. The task is completed. So, can we go home already? Mummin asks the girl not to deceive herself since there is no reader. A mirror appears in front of the lady. She just wants to feel better herself. After Michaela's death, the girl realized that she couldn't stop crying. The one who was ready to share all her feelings was gone. No one in this world would cry for a witch. One day at a meeting, the Illuminati were surprised by the presence of a witch. What was she doing here? After all, the person responsible for the Eternal Life Project would soon change. And this sorceress fell into depression after the death of her student. And its progress stalled. At one point, the scientists even suggested to their superiors that they stop the research. Fortunately, they have now found someone willing to take over. But no one knew what to do with the witch. She was no longer needed. Suddenly, the sorceress saw a cage in the hall with a boy in it. She ran up to the scientist and reminded him that it was forbidden to take living people for experiments. So why do they do it? The answer was a reference to the new manager who should decide. If the girl can't handle her job, then she has to ask others. The top management wants to see the results, not worry about the process. The scientist reminded the girl of her words about wanting to give up. So had she ever thought that this day would come? And Nilsi considered herself guilty. She was no longer able to distinguish good from evil. One day, she couldn't help herself and threw magical fire at her opponent. Whatever she did, someone always suffered from her actions. It's like a curse. She leaves pain and suffering behind. Living as a witch is not a fairy tale. Being aggressive is wrong. Being callous is wrong. Compromising is wrong. Resisting is wrong. Nilsi walked through the winter forest. There she met a group of warriors, among whom stood out a tall blonde man. In the end, the girl's mistakes became a punishment. They must hate her. The blonde warrior struck the girl down with his sword. Her body lay lifeless in the snow. And Nilsi's very existence was just a mistake. Mummin, she declared her unwillingness to live as a witch. The girl dreamed of going back to the past, so she could become someone else. And Nilsi woke up in a blooming meadow. But this time the sun was shining. It was warm and cozy. A hand appeared from the mirror in the darkness, and a voice said, "Poor Nilsi wants to escape, but she sincerely believed that she was someone's reincarnation. Although she has not yet lived the normal life that she wants." A red-haired maiden appeared from the mirror. She believes that Nilsi and all her memories will remain here forever. She no longer has to be afraid that someone will suffer because of her. She no longer has to cry for anyone. This world doesn't need Nilsi. The red-haired one calls herself Nilsi and her past, as well as the desires and fears deep inside her, and offers to stay with her here. Sister Javier asks Nilsi from the past to answer the question, why didn't she die? Answer, death is the easiest way. If the girl had allowed her brother's sword to pierce her heart, she wouldn't have had to suffer. But she didn't. Nilsi today believes that she was always close to liberation, but every time being on the verge of death, she gave herself a chance. Redhead says that Nilsi in the past did not give up on her life. She must understand what the past is leading to. The real Nilsi wants to live. Even after reincarnation, the world still echoes with painful memories. And the red-haired one must remember the eternal silt of the witch. And she asked, has today's Nilsi found her place in the world? Yes, she has. She smiled. It's time to go back. Nilsi woke up on the bed, but there was no one in the room. And had her hair gotten longer? The girl headed for the door. She didn't understand how long she had been sleeping. The door opened and an older Javier appeared on the threshold. He was carrying a bag, but immediately put it down on the floor. They looked at each other in surprise. Javier was hammering outside when Emily came up to him with bags on her shoulders. She came to say goodbye to him. She told him about the recommendation from Michaela about entering the Academy of Magic. The girl will go there soon. There is a boarding school there, so it may not be soon to return. Javier worked silently. Can he hear her? Emily is actually very grateful to fate for meeting Nilsi. Before meeting her, Emily knew nothing about her own talents, just as she didn't understand what to do next in life. Only thanks to Nilsi did the girl realize the beauty of magic, and she still considers it her calling, wanting to dedicate her life to it. Emily asks Javier not to think that she is betraying the teacher. The girl simply does not want to miss her own opportunity to become a sorceress. Emily has already screamed. She and everyone do not know exactly when Nilsi will wake up, but this does not mean that time stops. Emily hopes that Javier will be able to get out of this state, and asks her friend to live his life. He turned and, smiling, made such a promise. He is glad that his friend found her way. Javier apologizes to the girl if he made her worry about him. Now he is fine. The fencer intends to make a big bed for Nilsi so that she can sleep comfortably. And after he finishes, he will go to the Illuminati of Heimdoll to continue practicing his fencing. Javier hopes that when his sister wakes up, she will see him mature and strong, and not a boy crushed by depression. Javier is sure that he and Emily need to work hard. The girl smiled. She feels relieved when she sees the guy like this. As she was leaving, she waved to her friend and promised to see him after finishing her studies. The guy smiled when they said goodbye, but when Emily disappeared over the horizon, the smile disappeared from the guy's face. 73 days passed. Then 74 and 75. 76. 341. 342, 1,098 days. All this time, Javier worked and smiled at people. 2,555 nights flew by. Javier slept sitting next to his sister's bed. 7 whole years flew by. And then they met and hugged. Nilsi was surprised at how much her brother had grown. What was going on? How long had she been sleeping? Nilsi looked around. The room was the same. But why had Javier grown so much? For a moment, she thought the guy had returned from the past, and he couldn't believe what was happening. She apologized for making him wait so long. Nilsi promises not to leave the young man again, and asks to let her go from Javier's embrace. The girl is interested in what has happened over the past few years. They sat down at the table, but Javier was sullenly silent. Nilsi asks him not to look at her like that. She won't disappear anywhere. Was everything fine while she was sleeping? The guy mentioned rum. He inherited the family business and is engaged in trade. And Emily is studying at the Magic Academy. But for now, Javier won't tell her about Nilsi's awakening. If he does, the girl will run away from the academy and then Javier will be to blame. The teacher knows that Emmy is capable of such a thing, and Javier himself joined Heimdoll's Illuminati. He was trained in fencing as a paladin. The villagers also take good care of the young man. Let the lady not worry, brother had a good time. His fencing skills have improved significantly. Now he is confident in his ability to protect his sister from anything. Nilsi assessed the guy. Good physique and posture. It is obvious that he eats well. Clothes and hair are decent too. There are no signs of depression. But the eyes, they look as if the young man hasn't slept for a long time. Or does she imagine it? Nilsi stroked Javier. Does he want to feel her touch on his face? It's a bit strange. Although, when the boy was younger, they often did this. But now Javier is so big. Do habits need to be changed? She pulled her hand away. Brother does not understand such a change. The girl asked how long he hadn't slept. For Javier, it doesn't matter, but Nilsi thinks the opposite. She puts him on the bed and covers him with a blanket, asks him to sleep. She will lie down later. The girl apologizes for leaving Javier alone. Although he tried to get over the last few years of her absence, Nilsi still feels the pain she caused him. He remembers what this house looked like when the boys first bought it. There was almost nothing here. At the time, Nilsi was introverted because the world had rejected her, so she didn't do any home improvement in that state. Nilsi remembered how Javier collected flowers every day, and with the money he saved, he gradually filled this space. Here, the girl feels at home. Only in this endless darkness could the girl find a place to return to. It is still the same as it was in those years, but Nilsi lacks the warmth that Javier always tried so hard to preserve for the girl. Nilsi doesn't mind if her brother beats her, scolds her, and asks why she left him. But it's a pity, because he is a gentle child and would not do such a thing. So the girl can only apologize to him. The guy asks his sister to swear that she will never leave him again, like 7 years ago. And Nilsi fulfilled her friend's request. Javier will never hit the girl, and now he can definitely forgive her. Nilsi asks him to go to bed early. It's time for her to rest. Javier jumps out of bed and asks her not to leave. She promised not to leave the young man. Does that count too? The lady is surprised. Did he mean their double bed? Nilsi was horrified by the idea of sleeping together. The next moment, Javier pounced on Nilsi, but she asked him not to. He reminded her of his promise that the girl would not go anywhere. Nilsi will simply go to sleep in the next room. The guy reminded about the girl's absence for 7 years. How can he be sure that she will not disappear again? He no longer has the desire to wake up without a lady. He asked, "Will this never happen again?" "Never again," the witch answered. She got out of bed. It seemed to the girl that this child had become more intrusive than in childhood. Previously, he always behaved like a little adult. But now, as a baby. And now the girl herself is to blame for this. She turned to Javier. He is not a child anymore. He needs to understand the difference between a man and a woman. She pointed to the pillows. This is the dividing line between them. They lay down. "It's time to sleep," says Nilsi. Javier is pleased. She really came back. That night, he waited for the girl to fall fast asleep. The guy did not relax for a minute. In the morning, Nilsi woke up in her brother's arms. She screamed at the top of her lungs. She asked him not to pretend, because he had woken up a long time ago. The girl asked him not to squeeze her. But the young man complained of the cold. She suggests that he get up and move if he is cold. Nilsi went to the closet. This child is becoming more and more intrusive. The closet was empty. She asked the guy, "Where are her old clothes?" Javier washed it so that it wouldn't be dusty. It's necessary to wait a few days until the clothes dry in the sun. He asks the girl to stay in her nightgown today. Nilsi wanted to go to the village. She wonders when he will tell everyone else about her awakening. But Javier has no plans to do that yet. He is already prepared. Emily is studying at the Academy of Magic. Rum is busy with the family business. They all seem like very busy people, so Javier will tell them later. If the girl is surrounded by so many noisy faces, it will be harder for her to recover. The guy stocked up on food for several months. There is enough food in the mountains for his own needs. And Javier has been studying carpentry and blacksmithing for a long time, so he will do everything for Nilsi. Nilsi eats a cake with berries. She asked Javier, "Is he going to keep her here forever?" And he looked at the girl a little embarrassed. Peasants were walking along the street. Javier was also walking there. "See, Nilsi." As a result, she scolded him. She was right. The guy thought that for the safety of his beloved, it would be better if no one knew about her awakening. The mere thought of the girl going missing again sent Javier into a panic. 7 years of waiting had taken a toll on him. Javier had been overprotective and had held the poor girl against her will. If one day Javier was the one to hurt the girl, Nilsi walked up to him and took his hand. What was he worried about? And pulled him along. They ran across the square. One of the villagers noticed this, but Javier asks her to keep quiet. The people are surprised. Who is that next to the guy? Has he finally got a girlfriend? The daughter of one of the villagers will now clearly be upset, but the guy looked so happy. Javier and Nilsi looked at each other with loving glances. When they were alone, Rum rushed into the room, running across the square. He is very excited. Is it true that the teacher woke up? The boys asked to speak more quietly. The guest was ready, frankly speaking, that Nilsi would never wake up again. And what is happening now is so touching. Rum was afraid that the teacher would leave them all and go to the next world by the time he returned. The girl assured him that she was alive and well, and not a ghost. Javier would follow the lady, even if she became a ghost. Nilsi looked at Javier with affection. When they were sitting in the cafe, Rum assessed what had happened as very good news. Should he invite Emily, Michaela, and the rest of the guys? The lady asks not to tell about her awakening. And actually, Nilsi has one small problem. Do the guys remember the red-haired woman who helped them? Do they know where she is now? Rum asked about her place of residence, but the lady ignored him. But the guy clearly remembers the words the woman said at the end. The redhead was sure that someone of the female sex would come to her after waking up. Nilsi thought of the witch with an unpleasant word. So the last one was her mother? Javier was worried. What happened? Nilsi is ready to show something to her friends. Around her hands fuss a magic circle with a bottle inside. From the moment she woke up, the lady seemed to feel that something was wrong. At first, Nilsi thought it was just some side effect of sleeping for so long, but now she is sure that she is unable to use magic. What do the guys think? Why did this happen? Javier allowed a side effect after 7 years of sleep. If a person has not done physical exercise for a long time, his muscles weaken. Nilsi thought about it too, but such a possibility is very small. As the guys see, the girl has not completely lost her abilities. The lady managed to cast a spell for a short time. That's why the magic didn't disappear. But for some reason, sealed. The only person who can do this is that woman. But it's strange. Nilsi doesn't understand why she would do this to her. If she considered Nilsi her enemy, she wouldn't have helped her get rid of the grandmother paradox, and would have given her the opportunity to simply disappear. Why did she save Nilsi and then seal the girl's power? Rum has a question. If they can't find this woman, will Nilsi face even more serious consequences than losing her magical powers? She won't be able to defend herself if people find out she's a witch. The girl may be attacked by those who hate her, or by witches who need blood. They will probably come for Nilsi. But that woman is very good at disguising herself, so it will be difficult to detect her without magic. Now, Nilsi trusts only Rum and Javier. They are her last hope. And as for Emily, the witch trusts her too. Although this little one is too easy to deceive. She is busy with her studies now, so there is no point in disturbing her. Rum smiled. They are at a dead end. After the cafe, the guys went outside. Rum apologizes that he was unable to help his friends as a result. It's all right, says Nilsi. After all, that woman is also cleaning up her tracks, and that's also useful information. Rum says goodbye and promises to stop by when he's done with his business. Javier looked at Nilsi strangely. He asked, "Is there something on her face?" No, the guy thought the girl wasn't too worried, even a little happy. The lady chuckled. Is it that noticeable? It's just that without magical powers, she feels like an ordinary person. People have always avoided the girl because of her abilities. Even when she hid her identity, she was afraid of losing control and causing bad consequences. And now? Nilsi turned to Javier. She no longer stood out against their background. The guy thought exactly the opposite. The girl admitted that in the future, her friends could really get into trouble because of her. The girl apologized for this in advance. Javier is sure that everything is fine. Now he will protect Nilsi. She asks him to understand. This is not a small fight. There could be a squad of 1,000 people there. The guy is not afraid and is ready to kill them all. But Nilsi has a new number, 10,000 warriors. But Javier will destroy them too. It doesn't matter how many. The young swordsman will not allow the villains to cause her even the slightest harm. It all depends on him, said Nilsi. She wants to go home? The girl asks a friend to walk with her a little, complains about her hair growing too long. Soon, Javier was waiting for his beloved near the hairdresser. He was angry. It's just a haircut. Why can't he go with her? Nilsi finally came out, showed herself, and thinks that it's much better now. Long curls were so in the way. She asked, "How did Javier change his appearance?" He just looked and couldn't say a word. Doesn't he like it? Nilsi worries. He answered, "No, he looks good." The girl thanked him for these words. Javier has grown up in 7 years, and Nilsi no longer thinks that they are brother and sister. That's why she changed her hairstyle to a more adult one. Now the girl is very happy. Javier fell to the ground. Lady asks, "Is he feeling bad?" He asks his girlfriend to leave him alone for a few minutes. Nilsi moves away. She thinks Javier is acting very strange, as if something is bothering him. Although she herself is fine now. Perhaps the girl's loss of magical powers put too much psychological pressure on the guy? Or is he not feeling well? He hasn't slept or eaten well in the last few years, and he's worked a lot. If this continues, then Javier will definitely get himself a disease. At the same time, the guy himself could not calm down. When Nilsi returned, he was in a good mood, but it was at that moment that Javier felt something had changed. But that shouldn't be the case. It felt wrong to him. Nilsi had lost her magical powers, and he shouldn't make her worry about him. The same thought occurred to both of them. Something needs to be done. The guys are around town. Nilsi thinks today is a very good day. And now is the time for a frank conversation. And if the guy has any difficulties or concerns, he can share them with Nilsi. The guy is healthy and happy. Everything is as usual. She is happy. This is good. And both realized how unnatural it all was. Javier asks himself to calm down. He needs to find a new topic of conversation, as if nothing had happened. He ate the ice cream, appreciating its taste. Really? Nilsi wants to try it too. He had just handed Nilsi an ice cream when the product fell to the ground. The girl was very sorry. He hadn't held the stick? But Javier was looking in one direction and seemed not to hear the girl. She touched the guy. His face was red, and the temperature has risen? Suddenly he runs away and demands not to touch him. The next moment, Javier covers his face with his hands and asks for forgiveness for his actions. Javier came to Rum, apologized for being late. There was a lot of work. He wondered why the fencer was rushing to him. Wasn't Nilsi's teacher with him? The guys answer, they had a fight. Rum is surprised. According to Javier, it wasn't even a quarrel. He just said something to her, and the girl was hurt. And in recent days, when communicating with Nilsi, he feels strange. And when touching a lady, the guy feels like he's being electrocuted. And when she smiles or stares at Javier, his heart starts beating so hard that it feels like it's about to jump out of his chest. This strange feeling makes him feel awkward. That's why Javier unconsciously asks the lady not to touch him, Rum thought. Is this a rebellious phase? Javier wonders. He never thought he'd act like this with Nilsi. If he can't take care of her and instead makes her sad, what kind of brother is he? Rum asks him to wait. Javier knows what kind of relationship there usually is between brothers and sisters. The fencer thinks it's when they take care of each other, protect each other, and treat each other like the most precious person in their lives. Rum is ready to show him an example. They went outside where he approached two sisters. How are they doing? Are they being bullied at school? Do they have enough pocket money? The girl became wary. Why is he asking? But Rum was just curious. He smiles and promises to love the girls forever, no matter what happens. The sisters couldn't take it anymore. Did he forget to take his pills? Rum is so nasty that they want to run away from home. Rum asked Javier, "Does he see now? This is the kind of relationship that normal siblings have." Of course, every family has different relationships. Not everyone has the same ones as they have now. But it's not even close to the relationship he had with Nilsi. Rum always felt that his friend's obsession with Nilsi went far beyond family affection. Over time, this problem would become obvious, even if he didn't know the girl's real age. But in terms of psychological age, the distance between the two has shrunk considerably. 7 years ago, they were brother and sister without blood relation. Now, they are adults with a deep connection. The feeling that comes when you touch a girl is something that only adults have. It's how sympathy is shown. Javier thinks Nilsi might like him. Rum is sure that the young fencer definitely likes his teacher. Rum doesn't know what Nilsi feels, but Javier likes her. He probably didn't notice it himself. Even Emily realized it. After all, Rum once told how their witch would be able to find a spouse in the future. Javier doesn't know what to do now. Rum isn't going to interfere in their love affairs, so let the comrade decide for himself whether to confess to his beloved or not. But let him be sure. The girl will never leave Javier. Rum pushed his friend and asked him to go away and not to disturb him. Javier himself thought, does he really like the girl? Soon he was standing in front of the doors of their house. What to do? Tell him directly about his feelings. Javier didn't hide anything from Nilsi. What if it embarrasses her? At home, she began to hug him. But the guy asks to listen to him. First of all, he intends to apologize for yelling at his beloved. But Nilsi doesn't care. She asks to look at a photo of Emily. She recently sent this picture of her own class. The girl has grown so much in all this time. Nilsi asks the guy to look at the men behind the girls. There was the Madiri they knew. Oragat Academy of Magic is located in the north of the Yule Kingdom. Its history stretches back 7 centuries. More than half of the magicians were graduates of the academy. Its creation preceded the birth of this state. With independence and its own army, the academy became one of the few educational institutions in the country that could compete with the royal family and the Holy See. Javier looked at the photo. The man in the picture worked with Michaela. He went to Oragat? According to Nilsi, this is Morgana, the woman they are looking for. She is good at transfiguration magic. Even Nilsi didn't notice anything unusual when they first met. The girl didn't expect this lady to appear at the academy where Emily studies. And it won't be difficult for the witch to change her personality to any other. But why does she continue to use the man's appearance? They both looked at the photo. Javier wonders, is the man in the photo not indifferent to Nilsi? The girl is indignant. It's a woman, which she needs to talk to this lady. But will Emily be able to bring her with her? Javier doesn't think it will work. The last one said that Oragate is under military control. Teachers and students cannot leave the academy until the end of the semester. They even check letters there. In the last 7 years, few have managed to get in touch, let alone leave the facility. The guys don't know what to do. Having lost the chance to fight, Nilsi is left with the option of invading. But how to get into the academy? Javier doesn't understand why she needs it. What if it's a trap? According to the girl, the location of the boys has long been known to the witch. Morgana knew about their hiding place, but did nothing for 7 years. Nilsi doesn't know what she has in mind, but she wants to take a risk. Maybe she's not her enemy. It's a good plan, especially since the girl needs strength for self-defense. Javier is angry. He talked about the ability to protect her.